Salam sejahtera dan salam UiTM di hatiku. Yang berusaha Dr. Zarina binti Muhammad Zain, Timbalan Dekan Hal Ehwal Akademik, Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Yang berusaha Dr. Mazlan bin Chesoh, Timbalan Dekan Hal Ehwal Pelajar, Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Yang berusaha Dr. Radwan bin Yusof, Timbalan Dekan Penyelidikan dan Jaringan Industri, Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Yang dihormati Encik Muhammad Faiz Ismail, Ketua Pusat Pengajian Pentadbiran Korporat, Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Yang dihormati Dr. Noraidah binti Abu Hassan, Penasihat Program Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Yang disanjungi para tetamu jemputan dari Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia, Profesor Madya Dr. Zurina binti Zulkifli, Elia Zulkifli, Dekan Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat. Yang disanjungi Profesor Madya Dr. Yaziz bin Ali Basah, Timbalan Dekan Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat. Yang disanjungi Profesor Madya Dr. Ainul Ashikin binti Marzuki, Timbalan Dekan Akademik dan Antarabangsa, Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat. Yang disanjungi Dr. Nazratul Aina binti Muhammad Anwar, Ketua Program Sarjanah Muda Pentadbiran Korporat dan Perhubungan dengan Kepujian, Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat. Yang dikasihi para tetamu jemputan dari Universiti Putra Malaysia, Profesor Madya Dr. Muhammad Mursyid bin Arsyad, Pengetua Kolej Sultan Alaidin Sulaiman Shah. Yang dikasihi Dr. Wan Munira binti Wan Jaafar, Ketua Fellow Kolej Sultan Alaidin Sulaiman Shah. Akhir sekali, tidak lupa juga barisan para panel jemputan yang dikasihi, Puan Yusazrinita binti Ustadi, Pensyarah Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Yang dikasihi Encik Ong Karhui, Manager Corporate Services, Tricor Corporate Services Sedan Berhad. Yang dikasihi Puan Wahidan Tun Najah binti Johari, Executive Group Secretarial and Board Governance. Yang dikasihi Profesor Dr. Zubaidah binti Zainal Abidin, Fellow Akademik Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat. Seterusnya yang dihormati Ketua-Ketua Pusat Pengajian, Barisan Koordinator dan Pensyarah, serta yang dikasihi mahasiswa dan mahasiswi daripada Universiti Teknologi Mara, Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia dan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Alhamdulillah, seiring kita menadah tangan menzahirkan rasa kesyukuran kehadrat ilahi kerana dengan limpah dan izinnya dapat kita berkumpul di dalam program Forum Blooming Knowledge in Ethical Behaviours and Corporate Compliance. Saya bagi pihak jawatan kuasa majlis mengalu-alukan kehadiran para hadirin dan hadirat sekalian kerana sudi hadir bagi memeriahkan lagi program kita pada pagi yang mulia ini. Sidang hadirin sekalian, bagi memberkati majlis, saya menjemput Saudara Muhammad Fakrul Azim bin Ramdan untuk memimpin bacaan doa. Majlis mempersilakan.
الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Ya Karim, Ya Wadud. Sesungguhnya kami berhimpun pada malam ini, pada pagi ini, bagi menyatakan kesyukuran di atas kurniaan-Mu yang tidak ternilai. Jadikanlah kami hamba-hamba-Mu yang sentiasa bersyukur dengan kurniaan nikmat-Mu yang melimpah ruah kepada kami. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Engkau berkatilah dan rahmatilah perjalanan majlis program Forum Blooming Knowledge in Ethical Behaviours and Corporate Compliance pada hari ini. Sesungguhnya Engkau maha mengetahui bahawa kami di sini ingin menimba ilmu-Mu yang sangat luas bagi mengembangkan ilmu pengetahuan kami sebagai hamba-Mu yang Engkau redai. Ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram, kami memohon perlindungan daripadamu daripada segala perkara yang boleh mencacat celakan majlis kami ini dan daripada segala perkara yang boleh melalaikan kami dari berbuat taat kepadamu. Kepadamu jualah kami berserah segala urusan kami. Allahumma ya hayyu ya qayyum, kau berkatilah dan rahmatilah kami dan jauhkanlah kami daripada sebarang bala bencana, malapetaka dan kemaksiatan. Kerana sesungguhnya kaulah Tuhan yang maha pengasih lagi maha penyayang. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin, amin. Ya Rabbal Alamin. Majlis mengucapkan terima kasih kepada saudara Muhammad Fakhrul Azim bin Ramdan di atas bacaan doa sebentar itu tadi. Semoga dengan bacaan doa itu tadi, program pada hari ini mendapat limpahan rahmat dan berkat daripada Yang Maha Esa. Adat berbahasa menyampaikan pesan, adat upacara menyampaikan ucapan. Seterusnya, majlis dengan takzimnya mempersilakan Yang dihormati Dr. Mazlan Beceso selaku Timbalan Dekan Hal Ehwal Pelajar Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi untuk memberikan ucapan alu-aluan. Majlis mempersilakan.
Terima kasih kepada saudari pengacara majlis. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Yang berusaha Dr. Zarina binti Muhammad Zain, Timbalan Dekan Hal Ehwal Akademik Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi UiTM. Yang berusaha Dr. Radwan bin Yusof, Timbalan Dekan Penyelidikan Jaringan Industri dan Alumni Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi UiTM. Yang dihormati Encik Muhammad Faiz Ismail selaku Ketua Pusat Pengajian Pentadbiran Korporat Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Yang dihormati Dr. Nuraidah binti Abu Hassan, Penasihat Program Blooming Knowledge in Ethical Behaviours and Corporate Compliance. Yang dihormati tentu sekali para tetamu jemputan daripada Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia USIM. Yang berbahagia Profesor Madya Dr. Zurina binti Kifli ataupun Zulkifli, Dekan Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat. Selamat datang Prof. Yang dihormati Profesor Madya Dr. Yaziz bin Ali Basah, Timbalan Dekan Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat USIM. Yang dihormati juga Profesor Madya Dr. Ainul Ashikin binti Marzuki, Timbalan Dekan Akademik dan Antarabangsa Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat USIM. Yang dihormati Dr. Nazratul Aina binti Muhammad Anwar, Ketua Program Sarjana Muda Pentadbiran Korporat dan Perhubungan dengan Kepujian Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat USIM. Yang dihormati para tetamu jemputan daripada Universiti Putra Malaysia, yang berbahagia Profesor Madya Dr. Mursyid bin Arsyad selaku Pengetua Kolej Sultan Alaidin Sulaiman Shah. Yang dihormati Dr. Wan Munira binti Wan Jaafar, Ketua Fellow Kolej Sultan Alaidin Sulaiman Shah. Yang juga dihormati Ketua-Ketua Pusat Pengajian, yang dihormati Puan Yus Aznita Ustadi, Pensyarah FSPPB, Mr. Ong Kahui, Puan Wahidatul Najah Juhari dan Profesor Dr. Zubaidah Zainal Abidin selaku panel jemputan bagi forum Blooming Knowledge in Ethical Behaviours and Corporate Compliance. Hadirin hadir serta tentu sekali yang dikasihi mahasiswa dan mahasiswi daripada Universiti Teknologi Mara, Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia dan juga Universiti Putra Malaysia. Alhamdulillah, terlebih dahulu marilah kita bersama-sama menadah tangan dan menyatakan rasa syukur kita kehadrat Allah SWT kerana dengan limpah kurnianya maka dapat kita diberikan ruang dan kesempatan pada pagi Sabtu yang ceria ini untuk bersama-sama dalam majlis ilmu yang kita adakan secara virtual pada hari ini. Terlebih dahulu, sebelum saya meneruskan ucapan ini, saya ingin menyampaikan salam penuh takzim dan permohonan maaf daripada Dekan Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi yang berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Nur Hafizah Muhammad Harith, kerana beliau tidak dapat bersama-sama dengan kita pada pagi ini atas satu sebab yang tidak dapat dielakkan. Seterusnya saya akan membacakan teks ucapan Dekan Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Pertamanya saya ingin mengambil kesempatan untuk mengucapkan terima kasih kepada pihak penganjur kerana telah pun sudi memanjangkan jemputan kepada saya untuk memberikan sepatah dua kata pada majlis ini. Saya ingin mengambil kesempatan ini untuk mengucapkan syabas dan tahniah kepada semua ahli jawatankuasa yang telah pun bertungkus lumus dan berusaha dengan begitu gigih dalam menjayakan forum yang bertajuk Blooming Knowledge in Ethical Behaviours and Corporate Compliance, yang saya difahamkan memberikan penekanan kepada aspek-aspek pendedahan dan pengetahuan tentang tingkah laku, behavior dan juga etika di dalam dunia korporat. Hadirin yang dikasihi sekalian, sesungguhnya program yang dianjurkan seperti ini amatlah signifikan khususnya kepada para mahasiswa bagi memberikan pendedahan awal serta pengetahuan terhadap keperluan dan persediaan yang perlu dilakukan sebagai seorang pekerja bagi mengelakkan daripada berlakunya kejutan budaya sebaik sahaja para mahasiswa memasuki alam pekerjaan kelak, sama ada di dalam sektor awam maupun sektor swasta. Oleh yang demikian, pelaksanaan program seperti ini amatlah bertepatan dan sangat-sangat diperlukan khususnya bagi meningkatkan motivasi sekaligus membantu para pelajar untuk lebih berkeyakinan dalam menjalankan pekerjaan mereka kelak. Saya percaya dengan pelaksanaan program yang bermanfaat ini akan dapat membantu para pelajar untuk menghadapi dunia pekerjaan yang sebenar nanti. Saya juga ingin merakamkan setinggi-tinggi tahniah dan penghargaan kepada ahli jawatankuasa pelaksana iaitu Corporate Administration Student Society (CAS) daripada UiTM, Bachelor of Corporate Administration and Relation ataupun BICA daripada USIM serta Kolej Sultan Alaidin Sulaiman Shah Kosas UPM yang telah berganding bahu dan bersinergi dalam menjayakan forum ini. Kerjasama strategik seumpama ini di kalangan para pelajar adalah merupakan sesuatu yang amat positif yang diharapkan akan menjadi titik mula kepada lebih banyak lagi kerjasama yang seumpamanya di masa-masa yang akan datang. Jadi saya berharap semua pelajar terutamanya daripada USIM, daripada UiTM, daripada UPM akan mendapat manfaat yang sepenuhnya daripada perkongsian-perkongsian yang akan disampaikan oleh pihak-pihak yang telah pun kita jemput khusus pada pagi ini, iaitu kita ada Puan Yus Aznita Ustadi yang juga merupakan pensyarah di bahagian sektor pentadbiran korporat di UiTM yang saya difahamkan punya pengalaman industri juga sebelum ini. Kita ada Mr. Ong Kahui, kita ada Puan Wahida Tun Najah dan juga kita ada Profesor Dr. Zubaidah. Jadi saya harap pelajar-pelajar terutamanya akan dapat memberikan sepenuh perhatian dan memberikan interaksi yang sebaiknya demi mendapatkan manfaat yang sewajarnya. Jadi untuk itu akhir kalam saya sekali lagi mengucapkan syabas dan tahniah kepada semua yang terlibat dan terima kasih khususnya kami panjangkan kepada rakan di USIM dan UPM. InsyaAllah kita harap ianya tidak berhenti di sini dan kita boleh meneruskan dan melanjutkan lagi dengan pelbagai kerjasama yang sewajarnya. Akhir kata saya dengan lafaz Bismillahirrahmanirrahim meresmikan program Forum Blooming Knowledge in Ethical Behaviours and Corporate Compliance pada pagi ini. Sekian, terima kasih.
Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih kepada Dr. Mazlan bin Ciso di atas ucapan yang bermanfaat itu sebentar tadi. Baiklah, tanpa membuang masa lagi, dijemput Saudari Elisha Dayana selaku moderator untuk meneruskan program kita pada hari ini. Majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, salam UiTM di hatiku. Hadirin sekalian, bersyukur kita ke Hadrat Ilahi kerana dengan limpah kurnianya dapat kita bertemu dalam program pada pagi ini. Kata orang, tak kenal maka tak cinta. Tanpa melengahkan masa, saya akan memperkenalkan barisan panel-panel jemputan kita pada pagi ini. Untuk makluman para pelajar dan hadirin sekalian, keempat-empat panel jemputan kita pada hari ini merupakan alumni program Diploma Pentadbiran Korporat dan Sarjana Muda Pentadbiran Korporat, malahan orang-orang hebat serta terkemuka dalam dunia korporat. Panel yang bersama saya pada hari ini ialah Puan Yus Aznita binti Ustadi, pensyarah Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajian Polisi. Encik Ong Karhui, Manager Corporate Services di Trika Corporate Services Sendirian Berhad. Puan Wahidatun Najah binti Johari, seorang pegawai eksekutif kanan Petronas, dan juga Profesor Dr. Zubaidah binti Zainal Abidin yang merupakan Fellow Akademik Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat dari Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia. Baiklah, untuk makluman para hadirin, program yang diadakan pada pagi ini adalah bertujuan untuk melahirkan setiausaha syarikat yang profesional dalam kalangan pelajar. Sejajar dengan itu, diharapkan program ini dapat memberi pendedahan dan pengetahuan kepada para pelajar terhadap keperluan dan persediaan sebelum menjadi seorang setiausaha syarikat dan bekerja di dalam syarikat swasta maupun syarikat awam. Serta bertujuan untuk memberi motivasi dan semangat kepada para pelajar untuk mempunyai cita-cita menjadi setiausaha syarikat sebagai kerjaya pilihan selepas tamat pengajian. Dan juga sedikit sebanyak dapat memberikan pendedahan dan pengetahuan kepada para pelajar terhadap etika yang betul semasa di tempat kerja. Sedikit sebanyak pengenalan kepada majlis kita telah saya kongsikan. Jadi tanpa melengahkan lagi masa, saya dengan ini menjemput panel penceramah kita bagi memperkenalkan diri serba sedikit sebelum mengupas lebih lanjut perbincangan kita pada pagi ini. Baiklah, kita mulakan dengan Puan Yus Aznita. Boleh ke Puan Yus kongsikan sedikit latar belakang pengajian sebelum menjadi pensyarah di Fakulti FSPPP?
Okay, Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi. Terima kasih kepada moderator Alicia Dayana dan selamat pagi kepada panel-panel juga Prof. Zubaidah, Mr. Ong dan juga Puan Najah. Okay. Saya adalah alumni daripada FSPP, alumni daripada Bachelor of Corporate Administrations. Cumanya yang membezakan saya bekerja dahulu sebelum saya menyambung di Bachelor of Corporate Administrations dalam bidang kesetiausahaan syarikat. Sebab itu memang minat saya. Jadi dan selepas Bachelor of Corporate Administrations, saya menyambung bekerja semula dalam bidang kesetiausahaan selama lebih kurang ding-dong whatsoever 12-14 tahun. Okay. Dan selepas dah menimba lah sebanyak mungkin lah kan ilmu dan pengalaman, termasuklah pengalaman bekerja di listed company, melalui merger yang besar dan sebagainya. Dan saya masih ingat pensyarah saya memberi laluan, kata, okay, Yus, why not you come and join the faculty? Saya boleh ke? Sebab bukannya muda lagi, dah tua. Nak masuk guna TPM pun tak ada dah TPM-nya dah kan. So she said yes, so why not? Like you have the experience. So saya pun okay, right, why not? Come back. Okay. Sebab Bachelor of Corporate Administrations itulah yang sentiasa ada di hati. Okay, dan saya kalau boleh memang matlamatnya dan niatnya adalah untuk melihat lebih ramai golongan profesional muda dalam bidang kesejahteraan. So for the last 14 years, saya di sini di UiTM, okay, saya menjurus kepada kesejahteraan syarikat, okay, CSP, subjects, dan of course juga bidang saya adalah di corporate strategy dan corporate entrepreneurship, sebab itu adalah master saya international business. So itulah, dan juga sometimes saya minta memberi orang kata sedikit advice, okay, berkaitan dengan kepakaran dalam bidang kesejahteraan syarikat kepada syarikat-syarikat SME lah, kata lain lah ya. Dan of course terbabit juga dalam membuat soalan exam untuk professional stage untuk MAX lah, Malaysia of Association Company Secretary. That's it lah, tak ada apa sangat cerita dari saya. Terima kasih Alicia Diana. Saya serahkan kembali.
Terima kasih Puan Yus Azmita di atas perkongsian. Seterusnya dijemput panel kedua kita iaitu Encik Ong Karhui bagi perkongsian latar belakang pengajian sebelum memulakan kerjaya di Trika Corporate Services Sdn Bhd sebagai Manager Corporate Services.
Hai, selamat pagi tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian. Saudara Sansari, nama saya Karhui. Dengan sukacitanya saya ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada pihak Universiti Teknologi Mara dan Corporate Administration Student Society untuk menjemput saya untuk menghadiri kongsi pengalaman saya dengan para pelajar pada forum hari ini. Saya izinkan saya menyampaikan ucapan saya dalam bahasa Inggris seterusnya. Saya ni, I'm graduate. And I obtained my diploma in business administration, and then subsequently I get my advanced diploma in business management. Why I changed from the business administration to the business management is because the business management course is a collaboration between the my university and also the MISA, which is the first time I get to know about the company secretary, which is also the professional. That's why I decide to get involved in the company secretary practice. And since graduate, then I have been work in the company secretary line until today and become what I do today. I think that's all for my sharing.
Terima kasih Encik Ong Karhui di atas perkongsian. Kita akan terus kepada panel kita yang ketiga iaitu Puan Wahidatun Najah binti Johari untuk menceritakan latar belakang pengajian serta perjalanan kerjaya beliau sebelum berkhidmat di Petronas. Dipersilakan.
Okay. Hai, Assalamualaikum semua. Okay, my name is Wahidatun Najah. Okay, sebelum ni I was alumni of corporate admin. Actually I started dengan law dulu, foundation law. Tapi and then itulah bila tak boleh menyebelahi my side, so I tak dapat sambung law, so I dapat sambung corporate admin. So and then after corporate admin, I actually memang nak pursue juga law, so I sambung masters in legal studies. Okay, and then I lepas habis grad in 2015. Dapat masa sebelum I internship Sapura Kencana Petroleum, and then I grad, I dapat kerja dengan Symphony Corporate House, and then I moved to Axiata Group Berhad, and after Axiata now I am in Petronas now, it's my 4th year in Petronas lah. So that's a bit of my background. Thank you, panel. Thank you.
Terima kasih Puan Wahidah Najah, dan yang terakhir dipersilakan Profesor Dr. Zubaida binti Zainal Abidin untuk memberikan perkongsian mengenai latar belakang pengajuan sebelum bergelar sebagai Fellow Akademik di Fakulti Ekonomi dan Muamalat Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia. Dipersilakan.
Okay, alright. Terima kasih Alicia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, first and foremost, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to join the forum, student forum this morning. And of course, to all my colleagues, my panelists and students, okay. Where should I start? Okay, we're talking about graduate. I mean, where I graduated from. Actually, I graduated from ITM. Way back in 1973, and some of them has not yet been, not yet born, I guess. 1973, I graduated from ITM at the time, and upon graduation, I joined the corporate sector for 13 years. Okay, so because along the way you serve, initially as a secretary assistant with a servicing company, Coopers and Lybrand at the time, and you move on to a group of companies, and the last company was a listed company way back in 1986. After that, I moved over to teaching in ITM at that time, 1986, and of course, spending over a period of 30 years in UITM. All right, so there's a time when I actually with my practical experience as a company secretary for listed companies and so on, I brought them, I sort of bring them to the classroom. I share with students and so on. To the extent I'm able to come out with, reference books on corporate secretary practice. So as of today, I managed to publish about 5 books on company secretary practice. Okay, so and then the last post I have in UiTM was as the Dean of the Institute of Graduate Studies, and I have my official retirement in 2015, and from there I joined KUPTM, College University Polytechnic Mara, for 3 years as their Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic for 3 years, and from there onwards I was I was with Putra Business School, UPM, for quite a while, since 2010, but more on a part-time basis, because the students are actually using my book. So since 2010, I have sort of engaged as a part-time lecturer, so until today, I'm still attached as a, part-time, not say weekend classes for the master students. And then since this year, January 2022, I was engaged as a fellow academic with USIM. All right, so very briefly, that's how I ended up here in USIM as a fellow academic. I think that much I can share at the moment. Thank you so much.
Terima kasih Profesor Dr. Zubaida di atas perkongsian. Sekali lagi terima kasih diucapkan kepada para penceramah kita di atas perkongsian mengenai latar belakang pengajuan mereka kepada para hadirin. Saya yakin para hadirin pasti lebih teruja untuk mendengar perkongsian-perkongsian yang seterusnya. Baiklah, bagi meneruskan program kita pada pagi ini, dijemput Puan Yus Aznita untuk membuka sesi forum kita pada pagi ini. Seperti semua sedia maklum, Puan Yus Aznita merupakan salah seorang pensyarah di Fakulti Sains Pentadbiran dan Pengajuan Polisi. Maka, pada pendapat Puan, adakah pelajar digalakkan untuk meneruskan pengajian secara berterusan sehingga ke peringkat master, MOCA atau program profesional ICSA terlebih dahulu sebelum memulakan kerjaya dalam bidang kesetiausahaan syarikat ataupun sebaliknya? Dipersilakan Puan Yus Aznita.
Okey, terima kasih Alicia. Baik, soalan macam soalan cikgu Mas saja kan? Okey, but actually macam ni lah Alicia. Every one of us is the ones that handle our life. Okay, minta maaf sebelum tu izinkan saya bercakap dalam bahasa Melayu dan juga bahasa Inggeris. Okay. Every one of us actually handle our own life. Hidup kita adalah pilihan kita. Kita yang menentukan macam mana kita nak buat. Alright? Okay, adakah perlu pelajar-pelajar AM225 specifically saya rasa, okay, ataupun pelajar-pelajar daripada graduan USIM, okay, Bachelor of Corporate Admin di USIM ataupun daripada UPM, sama ada daripada graduan accounting ke business ke, nak terus sambung ambil master's program ataupun nak ambil ICSA. Okay, dia begini. Okay, menjadi setiausaha syarikat merupakan satu bidang kerjaya profesional. Sama seperti menjadi seorang accountant, auditor, lawyer, even a doctor. Okay. Dan kalau lihat ke mana-mana pun pergi, kan, dia akan minta begini, untuk jadi setiausaha syarikat, you must have attached with prescribed bodies ataupun you mesti ada license of secretary atau license secretary yang diberi oleh SSM. Itu dah termaktub dalam akta syarikat. Okay. Dan if you want to be a member of a prescribed bodies, you need to have a 3 years working experience. Right? Okay, 3 years working experience. Okay. So, di point yang mana you nak mulakan your 3 years working experience itu. Kalau LS, okay, license secretary, it will be 1 year. So dekat mana point dia? So kalau you tengok nak jadi doktor pun, okay, once they have finished their progress whatsoever, dia pun kena pergi buat dulu dekat hospital, kena buat internship dulu kat hospital kan. Gaji tak payah cakap lah, kerjanya pun tak payah cakap macam mana. Sama juga, you want to groom yourself to be a setiausaha syarikat, a company secretary, a chartered secretary by whatever name pun, okay, you will need to work hard and not just to study hard. Okay, saya rasa untuk you punya Bachelor of Corporate Admin, okay, sama ada di USIM maupun di UiTM sendiri, the line itu, I mean dia punya gist of it dah ada. Okay, you dah tahu dah, the niche of your program is to be in this line, in this professional line as a company secretary, okay, at the end of the day, right? So after you punya bachelor's, yes, for both BCA programs sama ada di UiTM maupun di USIM ada internship. Cuma bezanya berapa lama lah. Okay. So during internship biasanya student ni tak diberi dia lihat banyak benda, tapi kadang-kadang dia tak melihat banyak benda tu sebab dia melihat dia kena habiskan internship itu untuk dapat berapa dia punya grade dia. So dia tak menghayati, mungkin observe, okay, the whole process. So pada saya, nak tak nak, at the end of the day, memang you perlukan kepada professional certifications yang di offer di FSVP juga, iaitu ICSA, right? Ataupun straight kepada Masters of Corporate Administration, MOCA, yang di offer di UiTM juga. Which Masters of Corporate Admin ini dia ada bersekali. Okay, once you graduate from your masters, you akan dapat sekali dengan professional certificates ICSA tu. You akan juga jadi graduate students of ICSA. It comes together lah kalau you finish off you punya masters. Okay, but of course kalau untuk pelajar AM225 UiTM, untuk ICSA dia hanya perlu ambil the last 4 paper. Okay, the last 4 paper at professional stage tu, itu je yang dia perlu ambil. Right? Whatever it is, you kena ambil. Tapi bila masa sesuai, adakah terus ataupun bagaimana? Pendapat peribadi saya adalah once you have done you punya degree level, okay, let's have 6 months to 1 year. Okay, go into this line. Tak kisahlah berapa gaji dia bagi. Kalau bernasib baik, you bolehlah dapat gaji tinggi. Right? But normally, fresh graduates in this line, sama macam mana professional courses yang lain, you will start with 3,000 definitely. Okay? To get 2,000 also, I think Mr. Ong will say, let's see. Okay? Right? So, you are fresh graduates. So, what's important is go out there for the next 1 year or 6 months lah. Paling kurang lah untuk you tahu, do you have the soul to be in this kesejahteraan syarikat? Okay, would you love to be in this kesejahteraan syarikat? Ataupun apa sebenarnya benda yang dibuat? Sebab it's not just okay to go for incorporations, this form, that form, ni, buat tu. Okay, there's all other things. Okay, all sort of things yang you boleh ni. Jadi pada saya, have that time, orang kata masa untuk you tahu, okay, what you want to do next. Okay, in this line. Sebab whether you want it, whether you like it or not, you still need to go for those ICSA ke, okay, MOCA ke, or if you don't want that, you still need to register yourself as graduate students of Malaysian Associations of Company Secretary, MAX. Okay, for AM225, at this point, you don't have to take any of the papers, but you need to register yourself as a graduate student, and then you need to have that 3 years experience, also working experience. Okay, and of course, right, pengalaman membuatnya akan memberi you satu nikmat yang, oh, this is what Madam so and so kan punya bising dalam kelas. Oh, this is why Madam so and so, tahulah siapa Madam so and so tu kan, says that it has to be like this, if it's not like this, it's like this, it's like that. Banyak sangat dalam kelas, banyak. Kalau tak A boleh jadi B, boleh jadi C. Macam mana boleh jadi B, macam mana boleh jadi C? Dalam ni kata macam ni je. So when you go out, you know, oh, there will be situations yang macam ni, situations yang macam ni, macam mana nak handle. So you will connect with what you learn, and that will give you benefits also actually bila you pergi ambil you punya MOCA. Okay, because it will be at high level. Yes, you ada juga sambung je company secretary practice paper, advanced company secretary practice paper, apa yang dia nak. Okay, because kat situ ada perkataan practice, that means definitely the paper is more situational kind, problem kind of paper. And so if you have right that kind of experience and also the knowledge yang you dah belajar masa degree, you campurkan experience yang you buat, okay, for that 1 year ke 6 months ke, and then you take your masters, it lebih especially if you take ICSA, which is not Malaysian paper. It's not Malaysian paper in a sense. Bukan lecturer you yang buat soalan. Okay, so you normally would then you can say okay, maybe this kind of questions, tapi you tak boleh nak predict sangat apa kan. And then professional paper, okay, definitely dia akan ada juga senario dekat situ. Dia mesti ada juga case study dekat situ. So I will say before you embark to the next level of your educations, go out there, experience first. Okay, because that definitely you have to take. Okay, definitely you have to take one way or the other. But take a rest, go and work, find the experience, however little, however big, it will still benefits you in the long run. Okay, right, that's for me. Thank you, Alicia.
Terima kasih Puan Aznita di atas penjelasan sebentar tadi. Ya, MOCA ataupun ICSA, segalanya bergantung kepada impian pelajar sendiri. Sekiranya hendak teruskan, hadirkan jiwa dalam bidang kesetiausahaan syarikat. Jadi mari kita bergerak kepada yang seterusnya. Para hadirin pasti tertanya, apakah skill set yang perlu dimiliki oleh ataupun diperhalusi lagi oleh seorang graduan bagi meningkatkan peluang untuk diambil bekerja dan dianggap sebagai aset yang bernilai. Untuk jawab persoalan ini, kita mempersilakan Encik Ong Karhui bagi berkongsi tentang kemahiran yang perlu para graduan ada bagi menceburi pekerjaan dalam sektor corporate. Dipersilakan Encik.
Thank you, Alicia. What are the skill set that must be mastered by a graduate? I would say you must have the willingness to learn or ask, because when you are in the university, most of the time although no doubt you are studying the Company Act, but most of that is so-called the academia. But in practice or in real life, you don't know how it will be called. Like, for example, for the appointment of director, what we know is we need to pass a board resolution. But in practice, other than resolution, you need to prepare the other form or document as well. And in university, I think you will not learn how to do the lodgement with CCN. I think for this one, when you are first grad, when you first join a company, you might have the willingness to learn or ask when you don't know. So you have to ask your senior or ask your company secretary. I think they are more than willing to share with you or to teach you. And then beside that also, I think that you also need to have the right attitude. Yeah, so which means when people teach you something, then you might listen to them. And when you are in doubt, I think you should ask them when you are in doubt and not wait until the last minute. Like probably they give you assignment on the preparation on the opening of bank account, but if you don't know how to prepare, you should ask them immediately instead of wait them to get back to you, say, hey, where's the document, have you prepared? And then you only tell them, I don't know how to prepare. I think there's too last minute, so you should ask them immediately. And then I think you also need to be someone who is dependable and reliable, because whenever the concept or the client give the job to you, I think sometimes they need the task quite urgently. So you also need to take the initiative and work under the timeline and under the pressure and to complete the task as soon as possible. And then if you are working in the management firm, other than you have your own portfolio of the client, sometimes they might have some ad hoc job like the striking off or winding up or the increase of capital, those assignments. So whenever these are ad hoc assignment, I think it's a good opportunity for you to learn something from it. So please don't hesitate to take up the task if you are available, because some people may say, why I need to do this additional work? It's not now by mistake, but actually it's a good platform or ground for you to learn those additional knowledge. And then as if you are working in the management firm, I would say most of the time you'll be very busy. So I think so you must also be a good team player to support and help each other. If you are busy, then you might and the timeline is approaching, yeah, you can ask, you will tell the call site or ask for your team member to help to solve the assignment or task. Because we are we are not sole ranger. So we are work as a team to get the task or assignment complete. Like winding up exercise, because actually other than prepare document, you also need to liaise with the news agency for the advertisement of the notice of EGM. So this one, if we can get few people to do it, then we can complete the time within a short period. I think that's all for my sharing for this question. Thank you.
Terima kasih Encik Ong Karhui di atas penjelasan tersebut. Ingat pesanan Encik Ong Karhui kita. Having a good attitude is very important. Be dependable and reliable, and also sentiasalah work as a team. Seterusnya, kita beralih pula kepada Puan Wahidatun Najah. Kerjaya sebagai seorang setiausaha syarikat selalunya dikaitkan dengan profesion setiausaha PA untuk wanita. Tambahan pula dapat dilihat kebanyakan firma setiausaha syarikat dan setiausaha syarikat dalaman in-house company secretary juga dimonopoli oleh golongan wanita. Pada pandangan Puan, bagaimana cara untuk kita membetulkan persepsi dan pandangan bahawa setiausaha syarikat ini hanya sesuai untuk golongan wanita sahaja? Silakan Puan.
Okay, terima kasih Alisha. Okay, actually sebenarnya kalau tanya saya lah, kalau kita nak betulkan persepsi ni sebenarnya daripada apa kita tengok crowd sebenarnya kalau ikutkanlah percentage company secretary lelaki compared to company secretary perempuan memang sangat-sangat berbeza. Kita sebenarnya boleh tengok kalau daripada segi pengalaman saya sendiri, saya boleh tengok dari most of my kawan-kawan from my batch pun yang lelaki memang tak semuanya pun yang jadi company secretary. Diorang akan route pergi tempat lain, sama ada pergi finance ataupun pergi HR. Mostly memang lelaki memang akan prefer pergi either finance ataupun HR. Tapi company secretary ni memang susah. So tetapi kalau nak tahu sebenarnya once you dah bekerja dengan seorang company secretary lelaki, then you sebenarnya boleh nampak diorang punya capability lagi tinggi daripada sebenarnya perempuan lah. Kalau for example my boss sebelum ni lelaki. So dia punya kerja dia sangat-sangat teliti. Kalau you rasa perempuan teliti tapi sebenarnya bila lelaki jadi company secretary diorang lagi teliti sebenarnya. So itulah, I think maybe itu juga sebab kenapa macam most of student lelaki yang ambil corporate admin ni dia route dia tu tak pergi ke company secretary. Mungkin bila dia dah buat let's say dia dah pergi internship and then dia dah experience a few kerja, sebab bila kerja company secretary ni you have to be macam memang kalau memang tak akan ada masa for yourself. Sebenarnya lah, to be honest, I cakap memang tak ada masa for yourself, and you kena sangat-sangat teliti nombor satu, and you kena macam mana, you kena be resilient sebenarnya, sebabnya you kena deal dengan macam-macam orang. Sebab kadang-kadang lelaki ni kita tahu nature dia sendiri pun dia tak boleh nak handle too much stress sebenarnya. So bagi saya lah, kalau kita nak macam mana untuk those yang memang tengah pursue company secretary punya bidang, you try dulu. Sebab if I ask my boss tu pun, I cakap dengan dia apa yang buat dia memang stay sampai daripada dulu sampai sekarang. Cuma benda pertama yang dia kata sebab dia betul-betul passionate dengan company secretary punya kerja. You have to be passionate sebab company secretary punya kerja ni dia berubah from time to time sebab you handle different client. You takkan handle orang yang sama at pada masa yang macam lama lah. Mungkin kalau let's say kalau you masuk company kalau you because I have been both in-house dan juga firm. Kalau dekat firm mungkin you banyak deal dengan documentations yang a lot of documentation sebabnya you bagi giving services to the company. Tapi when you come into in-house, it's a bigger picture sebabnya you bukan bagi service hanya untuk company secretary, but you have to give service for your organization, for your company. You have to be involved in projects, you have to deal with directors, you have to deal with clients from various departments macam finance, macam HR or even tax or risk. So maybe itu juga salah satu sebab kenapa bila company secretary lelaki ni dia rasa macam tak nak proceed tu sebab yalah banyak benda dia kena buat bila company secretary ni. Sebenarnya bila you cakap company secretary, you sebenarnya macam you buat semua pun. Kalau if you in-house, kiranya kalau anything with regards to company, semua orang akan tengok company secretary. Tak kisahlah buat pasal board ke, pasal company ke, kadang-kadang even pasal board pun sampai dia punya personal pun tanya company secretary. But walhal dia ada dia punya PA dia sendiri. So mungkin that kind of situation yang membuatkan seorang lelaki ni susah nak jadi. Tapi once macam I cakap tadi, once they all ni jadi company secretary, diorang ni memang usually yang akan duduk atas-atas lah. Diorang ni someone yang akan memang sangat-sangat passionate lah. So key is you have to be passionate and you tak boleh ada perception yang macam kerja ni hanya untuk perempuan. You have to put yourself dekat dalam kerja tu, so you rasa macam boleh tak aku nak buat kerja ni, can I do this, can I handle this kind of stress, can I handle this kind of situation. So if you wanted to be a company secretary, especially for those guys yang tengah pursue company secretarial punya bidang, you have to set your mind and you have to set your passion. Once you have a passion, then insyaAllah you mesti boleh buat punya, and definitely you will become someone yang macam I cakap tadi lah, macam my boss tu memang actually to be honest for me lah, kalau if you want to compare you kerja dengan bos company secretary lelaki dengan bos company secretary perempuan, I prefer lelaki lah, sebab lelaki ni dia macam mana it's diorang tegas tapi diorang sangat macam teliti tu, diorang sebenarnya lagi teliti lah. Macam perempuan yes teliti tapi sometimes perempuan dia sangat macam dia akan ada satu kita panggil dependent tu, macam kebergantungan kita tu dengan staff dia. Dia macam I know my staff boleh buat, so I think whatever yang dia buat tu betul. Kadang-kadang sebenarnya staff dia buat mungkin salah, tapi sebab dia terlalu percaya staff dia. Tapi kalau bos lelaki dia, kita nampak macam dia tak percaya kita, tapi that is actually a good thing sebab dia akan check kerja you and dia akan notice small mistake pun dia akan notice. So I think Mr. Ong Kahoy pun maybe he's doing the same thing. I think kalau you tanya staff dia pun mungkin the same thing sebab memang dia orang sangat-sangat teliti lah. So that is actually my 2 cents lah on perception. So basically the main point is you have to be passionate kalau you nak jadi company secretary regardless of whatever gender you in lah. Okay, so thank you Alicia.
Saya sebenarnya sangat bersetuju dengan pendapat Puan Najah, yang mana nak mengubah persepsi ni memang sukar. Betul Puan Najah? Tetapi lelaki ataupun perempuan, as long as kita mempunyai passion yang kukuh, semua pun mampu untuk menjadi company secretary. Terima kasih sekali lagi Puan Wahidatul Najah di atas penjelasan tersebut. Hadirin sekalian, seterusnya soalan ini ditujukan kepada Profesor Dr. Zubaidah. Seiring dengan masa pada hari ini, company secretary sebagai governance professional ialah perkara yang masih baru lagi dalam dunia corporate, betul? Justru masih ramai lagi yang tidak mengetahui apakah itu peranan seorang setiausaha syarikat sebagai pentadbir urus profesional dan kelebihan menceburi bidang pekerjaan tersebut di negara kita. Bolehkah Profesor terangkan dengan lebih terperinci berkaitan dengan profession company secretary sebagai governance professional kepada para hadirin sekalian? Dipersilakan.
InsyaAllah. Terima kasih Alisha. Okay, izinkan saya share slide ya. Saya rasa lebih mungkin kita boleh what do you call it, focus and lebih memahami. Okay, let me just try to share because sharing dengan Google Meet ni sometimes it's not that easy. Okay, just give me a minute ya. Okay, press now and then you can see a window, correct? Okay, now where is my slide? How come it's not here? It should be here. So just hang on minta maaf lah, memang bab-bab ni memang can I thought you just click a window kan, betul tak? I dah open my slide actually. I try again open via a window tapi dia tak keluar kat sini. Macam mana ya? It should be here. Okay, sekejap. Cancel, maybe try something else. Your entire screen. Can somebody help me with this? Syafiq Aiman?
Okay, Prof boleh klik dekat your entire screen.
Okay, my entire screen, alright, and then?
And then klik dekat dia punya window tu.
Window mana?
Window yang apa?
Yang ada terpampang
betul, yes. Prof
Okay,
klik dia.
just click
share. And then click share dekat bahagian bawah. Klik share, dia ada butang share. Alright.
Okay, yang ni?
Betul, yes. So Prof boleh klik dekat
klik je
slide tu.
Alright, okay, thank you so much Syafiq.
You're welcome, Prof.
Alright, I need to show use slideshow kan? Okay, slideshow. Alright. Okay, once again, Assalamualaikum to all, right, and especially students. Okay, I'm trying to share here something which, when you look at the profession of a company secretary, what you expected, what can we expect, in terms of the profession itself in the next 5 years or so. So this is the direction. There is going to be a shift, and whatever that we acquire, right, whatever we acquire in class and so on, all these are actually the technical skills which all of us have to know, need to have that. But once you are in the corporate world, right, as what our panelists have shared, you can see that there is something over and above than the technical knowledge that you have. So what I've done to share here is to give an idea, sort of looking to the evolution of the company secretary in the way forward. Okay, I believe that most of you will be graduating soon, so this is what you will expect in the corporate world. Now, this is the shift, or the paradigm shift, I should say. It doesn't happen overnight. It has been in many webinars, forums, conference, and so on. It's been mentioned many times. So until I think in the year, I think it started as far back as year 2010, and slowly they're able to formalize. So how do they formalize it, right? It's actually, the first thing they do is actually even changing the logo, all right, of the professional bodies that is actually providing the what do you call it, the program, you know, for company secretary. So of course I just share it with you on you know, as far as MISA is concerned, because I actually am a fellow of MISA, but I think it goes the same with the others as well, right? So you can see straight away that ICSA UK, right, they have changed it to from ICSA UK to the governance, ICSA, the Governance Institute. And for MISA, they have changed it from MISA, and you can see the logo there, MISA, the Governance Institute. And of course, the next one is CSA, Chartered Secretaries Australia. They've changed totally. They don't even use the word secretary here. They use Governance Institute of Australia. So this is just to name a few. Of course, you have got others. You have Hong Kong, you've got Singapore, you even have got what do you call it, Africa, you know, all over. But just to quote the three. So from here, you can see the direction. Okay, somebody was saying that the word secretary, I guess this is one of the way, right, in which they're trying slowly to drop the word secretary. So at the end of the day, right, when you talk about company secretary, you're actually looking at a different designation in another name, right? They need to rebrand the whole thing and try to avoid the word secretary. So it can be, I guess, initially they come up with the word governance professional. But basically, if you look at the role of the governance professional, they encompass, the core of it is actually company secretarial duties. Okay, so just to share with you again the evolution of the company secretary, because this is what you're going to expect when, you know, when you graduated, when you move to the corporate sector, this is actually what it is expected out of you. Okay, this is also a publication, a paper, what do you call it, a book published by MISA, trying to create awareness among graduates especially, and even to the existing company secretary who are actually been in this line for many years, that there is going to be a shift. So they say that with greater expectation and responsibilities, yeah, the role of company secretaries will evolve, right, from secretary to trusted advisor. I'll explain later. From minute taker to thought leader, from servant of the board to conscious or moral compass guiding the board, and from collating and supplying information to becoming curator, analyzer, and advisor on that data and pointing to where to find more. From supplying answers to stimulating wider thinking by proactively raising the right questions. From being process-based to being principle-based. So this is just to name a few. All right. So I guess from the other panelists, right, daripada Puan Yus, daripada Mr. Ong, daripada Puan Naja, indirectly they did mention about this. They are no more actually just as an administrator, no more, right? So it is being, we may not realize it, okay, but this is actually what we are doing, okay? No more just a secretary, no, you become a trusted advisor, because as a company secretary, you are the nearest to the board of directors. Okay, so in other words, what they're trying to say, you don't merely sit at the board meeting and take down minutes, no more. They expect more from you, right? So you have to be ready. Okay, all right, so we move on. I just, hopefully I can at the end of the day, this give you the idea. Now, this is again, which I extract from MISA again. Yeah, and they were trying to show you the gradual shift. Yeah, the gradual shift from the company secretary to governance professional. And of course, you can see it is all embedded as one. Okay, this is what you're going to be. So this is going to be a combination of company secretary. This is why I said company secretary as governance professional. Some of them says company secretary come governance professional. All right. So you can see this is what you're doing. Actually, currently what the company secretary are doing, advise the board on corporate governance compliance. So you can see the word governance from the very beginning. Yeah, I can see this from my experience as well. When I was working as a company secretary way back in 1980s, I realized that in anything to do with compliance, they will look at us, they will look at me as a company secretary as though they expect me to know everything, because we are the one who are involved heavily on compliance issue. Anything to do with compliance, compliance with Companies Act, compliance with regulators, they look at the company secretary. They will not ask the accountant or sometimes, even the lawyers, but they expect the company secretary. So compliance issue is always the company secretary, okay? So advise on rules and regulators and ensure compliance again. Serve the board and senior management as a trusted advisor, focal point of communication among board, senior management, shareholders, and other stakeholders, guardian of all statutory books, and compliance officer of the board. You see how many times they mentioned about compliance. Now, moving forward, so they say that as a governance professional, you need to have this knowledge professional, knowledge professional with the ability to turn data into information and useful knowledge that can be applied into corporate governance in a pragmatic manner. So you have to, for example, during the board meeting, there are lots of data, there are lots of information. We are expected to be able, right, to provide any information requested by the board director, because there's nobody else. You are there as a company secretary, and of course sometimes if you have got a CEO, the CEO will be invited, right, to represent the management. So this is the extra that you need to be ready. And advise and ensure the board comply with corporate governance principles and practices, especially now we have got the Malaysian Code on Corporate Governance. Most company secretaries, I believe, they are very, very conversant with all the practices recommendation by the MCCG, especially the latest one, 2021. So these are the things that the board will ask you, okay? Things like board effectiveness, looking to especially the board, everything to do with the board composition, board diversity, all right? Board competence of the board and so on. And especially nowadays you talk about board evaluation, board succession. So this is over and above, right? But I'm sure if you look at the current curriculum, right, current program structure, ICSA, I believe a BCA and other related program, they slowly incorporate all these extras, they start having programs like understanding boardroom dynamics, and to sort of provide the exposure to the students, even during their their tertiary level. And here you can say empowered to take remedial action to influence and facilitate decision when corporate governance principles and codes are not followed. Who else is going to advise the board on the non-compliance of any provisions of the Companies Act or any recommendation or any practices or guidelines? Who else can advise the board? Is the company secretary, all right? And you need to remain independent. But sorry, I can't see what is behind the panel here, all right? I cannot move this thing. Yeah, I can move it, sorry. Okay. Remain independent while serving the board and senior management as a trusted advisor. So if you look at it, so these are the expectation, right? So sometimes they call, they refer this to as the Millennium Company Secretary. Okay. All right. So I move on very quickly. All right. Now this is the framework. This is the FAME framework for CSSGP. So you can see the FAME: facilitate, advise, monitor, and enhance. Okay, facilitating the board and governance processes such as board decision, board evaluation, and succession planning. Evolving advisory role to the board, chairman, senior management team, shareholders, and other stakeholders based on corporate governance rules and guidelines. Monitoring of statutory documentation and information. Enhancing compliance and processes, such as seeking to enhance existing processes in order to step up to better practices of corporate governance within the listed issuer. So you see how synonym is company secretary and governance. So it is very timely, for company secretary to be recognized as governance professional. So basically, this is what being issued by the International Finance Corporation. So this is global. global, and it's becoming a norm now. Now it's becoming to the Asian region. Okay, so you can see here, this is what we are actually, the company secretaries are actually doing. Yeah, you can see that first thing you can see, ensure compliance with governance practice procedures. Communicate with directors, communicate with between board and management, shareholders relation and manage shareholders meeting, conscience of the company, right? Because I believe that this is true, right? During my time as a company secretary, I remember this. Even the regulators, the stakeholders, if they want to communicate with the company, they go to the company secretarial department, right? That is the norm. Okay. Now, of course, officers of the company as well, we have got our duties, ensures compliance with laws and regulation, oversee conduct induction training for newly elected directors, okay, manages the corporate governance framework for the company. Now, I believe now with especially listed companies, even SMEs, they are having their own corporate governance framework, okay? So as a company secretary, we're supposed to manage and ensure, right, they align to the framework. So here this is that whatever type of organization the corporate secretary works for, he or she usually plays a valuable role as a bridge for information, communication, advice, and arbitration between the board and management and the organization and its stakeholders, including its shareholders. Okay, the corporate secretary can, among other things, help management understand the requirement of the board, help the board understand the challenges faced by management in meeting the requirements of the board, and help the organization manage stakeholder relation. I'm sure this is what Puan Naja and also Mr. Ong is actually doing, right? Okay, very quickly, qualification and skills of corporate secretary. Okay, these are the what do you call it? The skills qualification. Of course, all of us know is provided by under Section 235, subsection 2 of the Companies Act, and that is well-known facts. Yeah, to qualify as a secretary, of course, you need to be a member of any of the seven approved body, right, by the ministry. Now, skill required, this has also been mentioned by our panelists. You need to be respectful, diplomatic, and effective communication, active listening, bringing issues to the surface, especially those relating to reputational risk, bringing issues to, describing common concern and interest, generating alternative solution, respecting confidentials, appreciating for all parties, disagreeing constructively, emphasizing commercially minded approaches. Okay, so these are the qualification and skills of a corporate secretary. So here, whatever the qualification of the person chosen for the position, it is important that in addition to technical skill, the individual has strong emotional intelligence skill. This is something which I believe the panel will agree with me. It is, you cannot acquire this within a year. Sometimes you need to develop it, right? It takes years for you to develop this EI skill. Now, to carry out their role effectively, the corporate secretaries therefore need to have skill that enable them to understand their own and other people's emotion and behaviors, and that assist them with self-management and relationship management. Okay, these are all the soft skills. Now, they should use this skill to guide their behaviors and the advice they give to the owners, board, and management of the organization within which they work. So here you're talking about the behaviors. All right. Okay, very quickly move on. So just to quote, just to share you a very interesting quote by David Jackson. Here, he's a corporate secretary of the PLC. Now, according to David Jackson, he said that in today's world, the role of the corporate secretary has no one meaning and covers a multitude of tasks and responsibilities. Absolutely true. Very, very true. That said, the role lies at the heart of the governance system of companies and is receiving ever great focus. Very interesting. It is even been quoted. In today's world, the role of the corporate secretary has no one meaning and covers a multitude of tasks and responsibilities. You seems to be everywhere. In a company secretary, in any organization, you seems to be everywhere, okay, in the organization. All right, we move on. Okay, now role as a governance professional, I'm just going to go very quickly. It says that first thing you need to identify what, right? And advising why. What is it? And advising why certain corporate governance best practices should be adopted by the organization. This may be as a result of compliance with laws, regulation, standards, and code, or because the practices makes good operational sense for the organization. So this is over and above, right? Now, implementing within the organization those best practices through the creation and maintenance of cultures and relationships. This usually requires the corporate secretary to answer the how do we implement question, and which require corporate secretaries to have emotional intelligence skill as well as technical skill. You need to have both skills, all right? Because you know the board of directors, they can ask you a lot of why you have to do this, why, and you have to be ready with good, solid kind of response. Okay, you need to be knowledgeable in that area. Now, facilitating communication between board members, the board and management, the chairman and the CEO, the company and the shareholders, and the company and the stakeholders. Look at it, it's like you are everywhere, right? You're responsible to the board members, the board itself, the board and management, the chairman and the CEO, and the shareholders, and also the stakeholders. So this I said you are almost everywhere, okay, in the organization. Now, again, just very quick, a recent study in the UK, it was determined that for a corporate secretary to carry out their role effectively, they should be commercially minded or aware. Again, this is something additional. When you are a company secretary of an organization, you need to be commercially minded. In other words, you have to know the direction of the company, right? At times you have to be. So what do you mean by to be commercially aware? Meaning, to be commercially aware, a corporate secretary should be able to do the following: understand how the organization makes money and creates value, understand what the organization needs, how and now and in the future to continue to make money and create value, have a thorough understanding of the organization competitive advantage, keep up to date with the industry sector that their organization operates within. So looking at this, you have to, all of us have, as company secretaries and also, future graduates and so on, you have to see the expectation of the board, yeah? So you do not just sit at the board meeting and take down minutes of meeting. You have to know more. You have to be commercially minded of the organization in which you work, right? Or on which you will be working in future. Now, just to share again, right? Very maybe you can just Google, you can find this somewhere. If you need to know more about what is this governance professional all about, this is issued by ICSA, right? And they come up with this competency framework for governance professional. So basically, this is what they need. The future company secretary come governance professional, right? So this is, you need to have this understanding what I know, values what I believe, and practice what I do, okay? And I think in the next slides, you have something like, okay, again, just for the explanation.
Maaf sangat-sangat Prof kerana mencela. Mungkin Prof boleh summarize sedikit tentang poin yang ingin disampaikan.
Alright, I know.
Maaf.
Okay, alright, sorry. I thought I was given 20 minutes. Okay, never mind. Okay. All right, so very quickly, I don't have to explain this. You can read on, you can just Google discover governance and you need to know more about it, right? Okay, we move on and we're going to skip this as well. All right, the future role of the company secretary as a governance professional. So I think this is something which I can share you here. You don't worry about the slide number here, okay? Actually, it's only about 15 slides, I guess. Now, the company secretary must be prepared to deal with transformation in the regulatory framework, knowing that our own regulators, they have got, they keep on changing the regulation itself, so they need to be abreast, okay? The company secretary must be prepared to deal with transformation in the regulatory framework, increasing complexity of listed issuers, and the advancement in technology, which will impact their roles by 2025, okay? This is what they perceive, right? This is what happened. In the near future, company secretaries will eventually become change makers, serve as more than just trusted advisor to the board and senior management, and offering solutions to issues related to corporate governance. In line with this move, and as a governance professional, the company secretary is empowered to speak up clearly when he or she has concern regarding corporate governance. Okay. All right. As a governance professional, the company secretary effectively intervene during board discussion at the right time to help chart discussions on corporate governance and compliance matters. As one of the key figures in setting the board agenda and facilitating the discussion of issues which are raised at board meeting, the company secretary helped the chairman to stir direct discussion in the right direction with regard to corporate governance, of course, and help bring about meaningful change, i.e. by being an effective influencer through the chairman or the CEO. All right, as a key influencer on the board, the company secretary is an agent of change and not merely a gatekeeper. As a change maker, the company secretary get past the no or maybe responses, referring to yes and here's how responses towards corporate governance compliance. However, in practice, the extent of the company's secretary's influence will vary depending on the various factors, including the issuer's culture and board leadership style. I think the last point is very true. Okay, so as a conclusion, right, in an age of ever increasing regulation and demands on the board, the importance of the governance role to be played by the company secretary is abundantly clear. A dynamic governance system is essential to provide inherent checks and balances and to ensure the sustainability of an organization. The company secretary can no longer perform the task of a mere administrator in the same way that governance can no longer be considered as an extracurricular activities to be box ticks for annual disclosure. I think with that, I thank you. I apologize for the what do you call it? Maybe take up a bit of your time. I apologize for that. And how am I supposed to come back to you? All right, that's it. So can I just close this? Yeah, okay, I'm here. Sorry.
It's okay. Terima kasih. Saya yakin kini para hadirin kita lebih jelas tentang peranan setiausaha syarikat sebagai pentadbir urus profesional dan kelebihan-kelebihannya. Terima kasih sekali lagi Profesor Dr. Zubaida di atas perkongsian yang sangat menarik. Sebelum kita berganjak kepada soalan-soalan yang seterusnya, sedikit peringatan. Saya yakin panel-panel kita pada hari ini sangat bersemangat dan berkobar-kobar untuk berkongsi pengalaman bersama kami, tetapi suka untuk saya ingatkan masa yang diperuntukkan untuk setiap soalan adalah 12 minit sahaja. Okey? Baiklah. Kita akan berganjak kepada soalan yang seterusnya. Kita kembali kepada Puan Yus Aznita. Puan Yus, kita ambil maklum bahawa selepas tamat pengajian, graduan pentadbiran korporat khususnya AM 225 mempunyai dua pilihan. Sama ada melanjutkan pelajaran ke peringkat ijazah sarjana pentadbiran korporat atau mengambil sijil profesional ICSA AM 5550. Okey, jadi pada pendapat Puan, apakah kelebihan yang terdapat pada kedua-dua program tersebut dan apakah saranan dan pendapat yang Puan boleh berikan kepada pelajar sebelum merancang untuk melanjutkan pelajaran mereka? Silakan.
Okey, terima kasih kepada Alicia. Alright. Okey. Saya akan katakan begini, okay, sebelum saya lebih lanjut lagi tentang dua-dua yang di-offer, ditawarkan di FSBP, okay, di UiTM. Sebenarnya untuk yang M225, pilihan untuk meneruskan pengajian, ya, sama, bukan setakat mengambil muka, bukan setakat untuk mengambil ICSA. Okay, macam Puan Najah tadi, right? Dia ambil Masters in Legal Studies kalau tak salah saya tadi. Okay, so pilihan pada saya seperti saya kata mula-mula tadi, kita semua ada pilihan dan pilihan kita banyak. Cuma sekiranya betul-betul nak berada dalam bidang ini dan merasakan nak menyambung ke peringkat yang lebih tinggi. Master's program, master's program yang di-offer di fakulti adalah kesinambungan kepada degree yang ada iaitu corporate admin, dan ini lebih orang kata master's program itu dibentuk, distrukturkan begitu bagus dalam erti kata, bukan kerana saya daripada UiTM tapi saya melihat dia punya strukturnya, ianya akan memantapkan lagi apa yang ada, sama ada dari segi pengalaman ataupun daripada segi pengetahuan di peringkat ijazah. Sebabnya di dalam program masters itu dia bukan sahaja orang kata you study for the exam. No and yes. Betul. Masters program muka adalah coursework. So dia structured. So ada paper yang you kena ambil macam advanced company secretarial practice, and then if I'm not mistaken there is also seminar in international business. Saya tak pasti di offer ke tidak, tapi ada. Then of course ada tentang corporate finance. So all those things sebenarnya pengetahuan yang broad, pengetahuan yang ada praktikal kat situ, unsur-unsur praktikal di situ akan banyak membantu seseorang itu untuk berada dalam bidang kesusahan syarikat dengan lebih berketerampilan, sebab you are not as Prof Zubaidah kata dan panel-panel yang lain, you are not there to do the clerical work anymore. You are not there to do the administration work anymore. Your clients akan datang kepada you dan tanya, okay, I want to have redeemable preference shares. So it's not just to know about procedures. You kena tahu this is SME ke, ini family business ke, kalau family business macam mana whatsoever. So your broad knowledge dalam master's program itu akan memberi you semua, dari semua sudut, bukan setakat daripada segi legal dia ataupun segi governance dia, but also on the business side, also on the finance side, right? Macam mana you nak advise your so-called board of directors or the so-called clients. So that's the good thing of having the master's programs lah. And of course dengan master programs tu you tak perlu nak fikir macam mana nak ambil professional paper punya exam yang you tak kenal siapa dia punya examiner, you tak tahu apa soalan yang masuk. It's not like a kind of a structure. So you tak perlu pening yang itu, you just concentrate on preparing you punya assessment of your master's program. And then of course you ada dissertations juga dalam master program muka you kena write paper. So actually the challengings of you, they're going to be a company secretary, right? Then you have to write paper yang related. That's actually give you the maturity, the maturity to be a company secretary, right? Bukan je setakat baca, ingat, ambil exam. It's not just that, right? So, but at the end of the day, you also get your professional certificates, and that's good. You have your master's degree, right? And you have your professional degree, and actually, those working people take master's degree, MBA whatsoever, that will help them achieve to the level of managerial. So being a corporate corporate secretary ke, company secretary ke, or whatever it called, corporate governance officer ke, okay, or corporate compliance officer, whatever names it's called, right? When you are having your master's degree, right, that means you are one level up lah. Okay, the kind of managerial level and up, something like that. Okay, so ditambah dengan you punya professional, so definitely you already have, let's say, 1 year working experience, and maybe during doing your masters, you are also working and doing masters. Okay, so by the time you finish your masters, you already have 3 years working experience. So with that, you already have your professional certs together dengan masters program you. So when you go out there, okay, and hopefully at that time you already can have your sections 241, okay, practicing certificates, right? So you definitely at that level already. So your career path tu cantik lah, but nampak cantik tapi you kat dalam tu memang semangat kena kental, jiwa kena kuat. Kalau jiwa tak kuat, okay, you kerja ke, you tak kerja ke, you buat full time ke ataupun you buat part time ke, wah, kalau semangat tu tak kuat, jiwa tu tak cukup kental, you kata ya Allah, ni kenapa? So problem lah. Okay, so if you don't want to take your masters, okay, you say taking 4 paper, it just take me maybe about 1 year, and if I took full time, right, or if I take part time also, it can also be 1 year lah. And sebab professional paper ni setahu saya dia 2 kali setahun, tak kira lah Max ke, MySal ke, whatever, dia 2 kali setahun. So dia kata okay lah, Jun I ambil 2 paper. So the first 6 months tu, okay, I register dekat UiTM. So I pulun lah untuk 2 paper. I belajar kan untuk 2 paper. Then I ambil exam. Okay, rezeki Allah yang bagi so kita tak tahu macam mana results dia. Don't worry. Okay, those yang ambil ICSA pun, okay, some of them, right, kadang-kadang satu paper tu dia ambil dalam 10 kali baru dia lulus. Dah cukup 3 tahun dia punya pengalaman, dia dah lulus yang last paper dia. Whatever paper lah, whatever name of the paper lah. So, rezeki. So that's the risk lah dengan professional punya ni. Tetapi, if you are taking ICSA nowadays, okay, in UiTM, when it comes to orang kata keuangan dia, okay, for the time being, okay, nowadays sekarang di UiTM ICSA dia ada sponsorship melalui Yayasan Peneraju, okay, for working and non-working adults. That means as long as you not yet 45 years old ataupun you dah reach 45 lah, that's limits. Okay, so you boleh memohon untuk dapat sponsorship itu dan ambil the so-called ICSA paper lah. Okay, but of course there are the terms and conditions there. Okay, and then whether you are taking your masters ataupun you are taking your ICSA, if you are full-time students, okay, you either have morning classes, okay, or maybe, okay, you will have night classes. So there is a flexibility there. In a sense, you still can go working. Cuma itulah I kata, jiwa kena kental. Okay, and by having professional states of ICSA, you will still need to have 3 years working experience still to have a full-fledged membership and to be called as a company secretary. Kalau tak, you still be considered as graduate student of ICSA or of MySal, okay, and you do your work. Let me tell you all, okay, For prescribed bodies, whether it's MISA, whether it's MAX, it is 3 years. But then, if you really want to be in this line, okay, you have to strategize yourself, right? Okay, because you have the so-called licensed secretary, which is given by SSN, right? And that is for, you need to have 1 year working experience, then you can apply and go for interview. Okay, so with the LS, you can already start practice as company secretary. But down the road, if you still want to be, to be a member of a prescribed bodies, itu lebih ni lah sebabnya in terms of professional fees yang you boleh letak, in terms of, you have community untuk you working in this line. Setiap hari adalah cerita yang berbeza-beza. Mungkin nampak sama, tapi situasinya berbeza-beza. Jadi, when you have members, you can always go back to these people, ask, exchange, lepas tu ask questions whatsoever. That's we have community. Bila you jadi members of prescribed bodies ni, you dalam satu community yang kukuh. So if let's say after that, okay, you work 3 years, down the road, so you ambil master's programs, okay, you nak ambil ICAC ke, you nak ambil master programs ke, then you decided you want to be the MISA members, then you have to drop one, you tak boleh ambil dua-dua, so you have to drop your LS and then you become but then you already start somewhere, okay, as a secretary punya ni lah. Cuma to have the practicing certificates nowadays, itu juga salah satu benda yang perlu dilihat dari segi itu. So that's my 2 cents lah. Kembali kepada Alicia Diana.
Baiklah, terima kasih Puan Yus Aznita. Secara peribadi, apa yang dikongsi oleh Puan Yus sebenarnya membantu saya untuk merancang perjalanan pelajaran saya yang seterusnya, dan pastinya para hadirin pun berada di kotak minda yang sama seperti saya. Terima kasih Puan Yus Aznita sekali lagi di atas penjelasan tersebut. Baiklah, kita akan berbalik kepada Encik Ong Kar Hui. Soalannya adalah melihat kepada kebolehpasaran graduan di mana terdapat juga graduan yang menganggur dan tiada peluang pekerjaan. Pada pendapat Tuan, adakah graduan daripada bidang pentadbiran korporat mampu bersaing dan dapat peluang pekerjaan selepas tamat pengajian, lebih-lebih lagi setelah berlakunya pandemik COVID-19? Dipersilakan.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. Yeah, correct. It's no doubt that during the economy downturn, the corporate, they tend to cut down the cost and might have some retirement exercise. But what I would say is the job demanding for the cost is always there, because even though during the economy downturn, when there are some company where they are not performing, if they are setting up the kesenian berhad or berhad, they need to close down their company in the proper way, either by the winding up or the striking off. So either way, they also have to engage us for the services. So they are the demand for the cost center job. Give me a minute. So the most important thing is whether you have the right or the right skill or the capability to take up the job whenever there is an opportunity or the market. Because like during the COVID-19, also there are some company or business they are expanding, like those vaccine company or those companies who are producing those double growth. Their business are expanding, so they are setting up more subsidy or they are venture into those new business. So there are also a demand for the course as well. So I don't think there's an issue for those graduates for the course who would like to venture into the course line. So I think that's all for my sharing today. Okay, go back to you, Miss Shahija.
Terima kasih Encik Ong Karhui di atas penjelasan tersebut. Baiklah para hadirin, kita akan beralih pula kepada Puan Wahidatun Najah. Puan Wahidatun Najah, boleh dengar saya? Ya, okey. Baiklah. Soalannya adalah, adakah penguasaan bahasa Inggeris penting untuk para graduan sebelum mereka memulakan kerjaya di dalam bidang kesetiausahaan syarikat? Sekiranya seseorang graduan itu lemah dalam bahasa Inggeris, adakah ia akan menyukarkan graduan untuk mendapatkan pekerjaan di dalam bidang kesetiausahaan syarikat? Silakan.
Okay, thank you Alicia. Okay, sebenarnya bahasa Inggeris ni kalau kita tahu pun memang penting sebenarnya kalau dekat mana-mana pekerjaan pun, sebab kita akan deal dengan orang-orang luar, bukan hanya tertakluk dekat Malaysian sahaja. And even Malaysians pun kita ada daripada different races, so kita tak akan ada satu bahasa which is kita punya connection yang kita boleh cakap, yang bahasa perantara yang kita boleh guna hanyalah bahasa Inggeris lah. Kan, jadi memang kalau bagi pendapat saya, bahasa Inggeris ni adalah satu yang memang sangat-sangat penting. Dia for example dia tak perlu bahasa Inggeris tu macam sangat perfect, as long as you boleh cakap, as long as you boleh converse dengan orang dan orang faham apa yang you cakap, that's fine, because kita dalam learning process. So tak semestinya if you nak kerja you kena ada bahasa Inggeris yang perfect, yang strong. As long as you boleh cakap, as long as you boleh type in bahasa Inggeris, then tak ada isu lah. So you can proceed untuk bekerja lah. So for me, bahasa Inggeris tu sangat penting. Tapi if you ask me pun, if you pergi dekat mana-mana company, kalau let's say you tak boleh cakap bahasa Inggeris pun, diorang akan ada satu perception dekat you, macam boleh ke orang ni nak handle clients, boleh ke dia nak deal dengan stakeholders, dengan shareholders. Sebab for example kalau you masuk in-house, you akan deal dengan not only domestic clients, but you will deal dengan international clients. So when it comes to international clients, definitely you nak cuba-cuba cakap bahasa Melayu pun susah. Kalau dekat domestic, mungkin you boleh cuba cakap Melayu dengan Chinese or Indians, but if you nak cuba cakap Melayu dengan orang putih ke, dengan even orang Japanese ke, Thailand ke, so it will become something yang susah kan. So you have to have English punya proficiency lah. Tak kisah sama ada dia bagus ataupun tidak, as long as you boleh bercakap, as long as you boleh craft something, you punya email pun, if you wanted to look professional, definitely you have to email in English, unless that kind of documents ataupun that kind of conversation requires you untuk cakap dalam bahasa Melayu. So for me, if you ask me, bahasa Inggeris sangat-sangat penting untuk kita develop ourselves. And also kalau you good in English pun, it's a plus mark for you. Definitely orang akan cari you, definitely orang akan senang untuk communicate with you lah. So itu my pendapat lah on whether English is important or not. Thank you Alicia.
Terima kasih. Jadinya bila kita bicara tentang bahasa ni, perlu kita ingat bahawa life is all about learning process kan? Jadi jangan risau untuk mencuba sesuatu yang baharu, because practice makes perfect. Terima kasih sekali lagi buat Puan Wahidatun Najah di atas penjelasan tersebut. Baiklah hadirin sekalian, soalan berikutnya bakal ditujukan kembali kepada Profesor Dr. Zubaidah. Soalannya adalah, pada pendapat Prof, adakah protege atau associate program yang dianjurkan oleh syarikat-syarikat besar memberi nilai tambah atau melambatkan lagi perjalanan kerjaya sebagai setiausaha syarikat? Ini kerana program seperti ini biasanya melibatkan tempoh hampir 2 tahun. Dipersilakan Profesor Doktor.
Terima kasih Alicia. Bila saya baca soalan ni, I checked with Yusim, or I checked with Dr. Nash. Yusim ada ke associate program ni, you know? So according to, and I guess I'm fortunate in the sense that I have got an experience with UITM, ada experience dengan Putra Business School, now with Yusim. Alright, so the first thing that comes to my mind when you talk about associate program or protection ni, I think lebih kepada, I may be wrong lebih kepada internship kot. Is that? Yeah, lebih pada internship. Am I right, Puan Yus? Yeah? So I guess every university, right? Every university in Malaysia, even anywhere in the world, dia mesti embed this 6 months or 1 year internship program dalam program structure tu. It looks as though it's a must. Kalau you tanya MQA requirement pun, you mesti ada. Now it's very, very relevant. Yeah. So misalnya internship tu 6 bulan ke setahun, of course lah kalau you take that away, the students will graduate in 2.5 years. But it is very, very useful. I guess there's no two way about it, because that is the time when whatever that you have learned in class, you put them in the corporate world, attach them to one company. That's where they learned. They put into practice. At the same time, not just putting everything what you learn in class into practice, but how you interact with your colleagues, the other what you call the employees of the organization. How do you interact with them? So this is where your teamwork comes in. Okay, you when you work out there in the corporate world, you're not supposed to work alone, right? You need to have a boss, you need to have peers, you need to have subordinates. So how you interact, that's very important. That is actually what the whole idea of internship over, of course, in addition to learning, you know, on the job training and so on and so on. So of course, it very much depends on the students. Okay, again, based on experience, when I was in UITM, I have got the opportunity to be in charge of student placement. Okay, it's not easy to handle hundreds of students in one intake, and then comes the next. So it's actually very much on how the students themselves have to be proactive. You know, you sort of, of course we have got briefing with the student before they go off for internship, the do's and the don'ts, right? But despite all those things, some or other misty other cases, right? So the first thing is to develop their soft skill. That's why in class, all of us agree that we do have a lot of presentation in class, how to speak, you know, and your, of course, your ethical behavior when you work with people. Now, because when the students go for internship in the organization, you are carrying the flag of your university. Itu selalu kita pesan. When you are there, you are carrying the flag of the university. If you do not perform, or you have got problems, or you create problems, we are going to have problems in sending more students to the companies, because among the companies, mind you, they always have got this connection as well. Yeah, so very important. And they must be proactive, right? They themselves have to put, what do you call it, have got that so-called, of course, at that point in time, it's difficult to say whether they are passionate about the job because it's too short a time. But believe me, from my experience against, some students, after they come back from the internship, they just switch off. I said, I'm not going to be a company secretary if that's the kind of job they're going to do. So after we investigate, and we find out that this particular student doesn't have proper guidance, do not receive the actual kind of job that they're supposed to do. These are the things. But again, if the students are proactive enough, they should be able to speak up and say, can you give me some work relating to incorporation of company, for example? Can you allow me to have a look at the statutory documents, for example, things like that. So yes, we have given them everything, the knowledge in classroom. They're supposed to implement that but the most important thing is the interaction, the teamwork, right? How you socialize, how you behave yourself. That is the most important. I think yes, I should, whether it takes another extra 6 months to 1 year, I still feel, right? I still feel that it is very, very important to have that associate program with industry. And also looking on the bright side of it, yeah. Again, depending on the university, some of the program they have placed the internship as the last semester, right? Some of them second last semester. But I noticed that those programs that have their internship in the last semester, in most cases, they will be absorbed by the companies in which they did their internship many, many times. So, and usually we always quote this example when we send the next batch. So, and then sometimes you bring in all these alumni to the classroom, and despite we lecturers telling them, right? So we have got the alumni coming and to share their experience, what to do, what to expect from the industry side, from the company side, and they were students in the university. So we always capitalize on the alumni. So I'm sure this is what UiTM is doing, because that's what I did in UiTM. I'm sure Putra Business School also will be doing the same thing. I'm sure USIM is also the same thing. And all other universities are doing the same thing. We want the students to benefit, from the internship. But of course, there's always cases where, the students may not be fortunate enough. They were sent to an industry where they end up becoming an expert in mixing the coffee, right? As serve coffee. They've been asked to, serve like the tea lady. So that is something very sad. That's why within 1 year, we have got lecturers making surprise check to all the companies that have got their students. That's very important. Checking, right? If they got 6 months to go, the first month you already check. I think that is my views. Okay, thank you so much, Alicia.
Terima kasih Profesor Dr. Zubaida di atas penjelasan tersebut. Baiklah, kita teruskan lagi program kita pada pagi ini dengan 2 soalan yang lebih terbuka sebelum kita teruskan dengan sesi soal jawab bersama penonton. Bagi soalan pertama ini bakal ditujukan kepada Puan Yus Aznita dan Encik Ong Karhui. Secara umumnya, ilmu budaya etika dan moral telah pun diterapkan dan diajar kepada pelajar-pelajar sebelum memasuki alam pekerjaan. Namun, masih terdapat segelintir pekerja yang masih lalai dan tidak komited serta menunjukkan contoh yang tidak baik ketika bekerja. Pada pendapat Puan dan Encik, mengapakah perkara sedemikian boleh berlaku? Silakan Puan Yus terlebih dahulu.
Terima kasih Alicia. Saya dulu ya. Okay. Alright. Yes. Okay. For what we call it, falsafah pendidikan tinggi, memastikan di dalam kurikulum program, okay, mestilah ada elemen ethics and professionalism. Jadi memang saya rasa tak kisahlah sama ada di BCA ke ataupun di USIM, di UPM, apa-apa program pengajian memang dah instill dengan hal-hal yang berkaitan ethics dan professionalism tersebut, seperti mana falsafah pendidikan tinggi. So bila soalan ini bertanya kenapa bila kerja benda tu tak dipraktikkan? Tepuk dada, tanya hati. Okay. What is this professional ethics? Okay, what is this ethics? Ethics is what you think is right and wrong. So it's based on a person punya secara teorinya is based on a person's punya background, okay, experience dia, cara pemikiran dia, value, apa yang dia value, apa behavior dia, apa matlamat hidup dia, those, okay, will reflect on what a person thinks as right and wrong. Sebab dalam hidup ini dia subjektif. What is right to us might be wrong to somebody else. Okay, kita kata okay, kita masuk mungkin bukan pukul 9 pagi, patut office masuk pukul 9 pagi. Kita masuk pukul 9:30 pagi, tapi kita tak balik pukul 6 petang. Kita balik pukul 7 malam. Right? I'm sure Mr. Ong will say, yeah, I come before 9, but I go back also before 10 PM. Itu usual. Okay, being working, tak payahlah jadi company secretary lagi. Jadi assistant company secretary pun in a management firm, right? Tak kisahlah kecil ke, besar ke, sederhana ke, your working time is like that. So you kata, tak apalah I masuk 9:30, bukan pukul 9, punch card I lambat, tapi I balik lambat. Dia kata it's okay, right? So to you, you still work in the time frame. 9 jam, you kata tak salah. So that's why it says ethics itu adalah subjektif, it's the rights and wrong apa yang orang fikir. Tetapi setiap management dia ada dia punya corporate kata corporate conduct dia ada corporate whatever code dia whatsoever. Okay, jadinya if you knows that you are a staff and you are actually building yourself to branding yourself as a company secretary, right? So when it comes to budaya kerja beretika, it should not be a problem sebab you tahu, okay, kalau clients you minta A, tetapi sepatutnya you tak boleh bagi yang A tu sebab Companies Act kata gini, right? You cannot have your section 78 return of allotment if the money is not in the bank account and you tak boleh prepare the documents and then submit to SSM. You knew that, you learned that in class. Tapi bila klien yang kata, I'm going to pay, I'm your boss, you pun mula takut. Kami esok tak ada kerja kan, tak buat kan, right? But always remember, company secretary is officer of the company. Okay, so before the company kena bayar penalty, you pun kena penalty. So always put the professional ethics in front. Okay, so don't be afraid because remember you are actually branding yourself as a company secretary or as a future company secretary whatsoever. So if there is requirements, if there is a process, if you know that, okay, being a company secretary, you always need to have evidence, the black and white before you do something. Okay, you cannot simply submit documents to SSM when there is no yet money bank into the account, right? Because especially nowadays under Companies Act 2016, everything must be it cannot be backdated. Bukan macam Companies Act 1965 kan, kita we can still have it backdated punya ni situations. Okay, that's and because of learning from that scenario, so Companies Act 2016, when it comes to requirements, it has fulfilled, I will say, the need of this professional ethics to be instilled. So at the end of the day, you have to know what is right and wrong to be a good company secretary. So kalau ada benda tu, saya fikir, saya berpendapat bila you berada dalam line ini, you kena selalu alangkan yourself dengan being a professional, dia mesti ada etika kerja dia sebab company secretary tidak ada akta dia sendiri, tak macam accountant, dia ada akta dia sendiri. So kalau company secretary, apa-apa terjadi dia kena tanggung. So that's the reason, or that's the things you must always remember. So professional ethics itu mesti ada, budaya kerja beretika tu kena ada. Okay, your regulations is there, your statutory acts is there, so you have to follow that. That's saya. Kembali kepada Alicia.
Terima kasih Puan Yus Aznita. Jadilah cerminan yang baik dalam mengaplikasikan konsep etika kepada diri dan juga pekerjaan kita. Seterusnya dipersilakan Encik Ong Kar Hui pula untuk menjawab persoalan ini.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. Yeah, I agree with one use that we must have the professional ethic. Else, once you cross the line, then you will be, you will take, if you break the law or you breach the act, then you will be penalized or you will get imprisonment. So for, nowadays people when they are not follow the law or they don't have moral, because what I think one of the reasons is the norm in their working environment or industry. Like for those government projects, some people say they will ask for the kickback or the bribery for if you want to tender for certain project. But I don't think it's something right. You should uphold your own principle, because everyone of us know that bribery is not correct, or accepting bribery is not the correct attitude or action. So you should uphold your principle and reject it. And then I think another reason should be the pressure from either your boss or your client. Like let's say your client say they need something urgently, or they say the deadline is approaching, so they want you to submit the document even though without the proper approval. So I think this one you have to explain to your client that you can't do based on their just solely on their instruction. You need to have the proper approval before you do anything. Or sometimes if from the board or board of director. So like if for example they say this one they need to do a tender and they need the COSEC to certify the director resolution. But the question is the board resolution haven't signed that. So you should do advise the board based on the company consider say, you see, the consider say we must have at least the majority or all directors, but right now the board resolution is not coming back, so we can't do that. Yeah, so you have to stand firm on your stand and advise or tell the board accordingly. And then I think another reason is because people want to are greedy or they want to take the shortcut. Because if they provide the prize or they give the gift or other, they might get the job done easily. But I don't think this is something right. So you should stand firm on your principle. So don't take the shortcut or break the law. Because if you committed any corrupted related offense, you will be imprisonment for maximum 20 years or a fine of not less than 5 times of the graduation. So you have to be aware of this before you are actually doing something which is not right. I think that's all for my sharing. Thank you.
Terima kasih Encik Ong Kar Hui di atas penjelasan tersebut. Baiklah, beralih pula kita kepada soalan yang kedua, di mana soalan ini bakal ditujukan kepada Puan Wahidatun Najah dan Profesor Dr. Zubaidah. Soalannya adalah, budaya etika merangkumi pelbagai aspek dalam kehidupan. Antaranya ialah etika dalam menghormati antara satu sama lain di dalam tempat kerja. Pada pendapat Puan dan Profesor Doktor, wajarkah pekerja pelatih intern atau pekerja yang berpakat rendah untuk bekerja secara lebih masa sebagai tanda menghormati majikan dan dianggap sebagai tanggungjawab hakiki dan ianya dijadikan budaya kerja sebuah syarikat? Dipersilakan Puan Wahidatun Najah terlebih dahulu.
Okay, terima kasih Alicia. Okay, so basically dia kalau kita
Mungkin Puan Wahidatun Najah mengalami masalah gangguan teknikal. Kalau begitu kita teruskan dahulu dengan Profesor Dr. Zubaidah. Minta maaf.
Boleh, insyaAllah. Okay. Terima kasih Alicia. I think kalau diizinkan, I just want to touch on the question posted to Puan Yus dengan Encik Ong regarding that professional ethics.
Sure.
Mungkin I was just thinking one of the most very important issues on professional ethics, we as company secretary we have to be very conversant with the provision of the Companies Act 2016. So what I gather from my friends who are actually working in-house company secretary, so you just need to highlight, okay? Say very simple example, conflict of interest, disclosure on conflict of interest. Again, directors, you're supposed to be the trusted advisor, okay? So you just tell them, right? For example, if you fail to declare your interest in any contract whatsoever, which is going to be an item in the agenda, right? So just tell them that for the same for non-compliance, okay, on disclosure on conflict of interest in the Companies Act 1965, the penalty is only 30,000. But for similar offence, right, in the Companies Act 2016 is 3 million. Yeah, you just tell them, right? Just tell them. Okay, that's why you need, as a company secretary, you need to be able to stand up, tell them, right? So it is really the Companies Act 2016 focus on directors, and the penalties is like 100 times more, right? 100 times more. So that is actually a very good point for company secretary to advise them accordingly, and at the same time you gain respect from them because you caution them, right? So this is what you learn as you go along. Okay, coming to the, sorry Alicia, coming to the questions on whether the internship, whether students who are doing the internship should stay back to respect your bosses or your colleagues. I think this is very what should I say, a difficult questions to answer actually. Now this is how I look at it, because we also, macam saya pun pernah kerja corporate sectors. I don't think so that is exactly what the employer wants from the internship. If for example you need to be around to assist them along the way, and then you go off, say for example you're preparing the papers for the board meeting, of course you have to be with your bosses. That's why you learn at the same time, right? You have to be with him to make sure that everything is in order. At the same time, internship pun were given some work to do, so that's how you acquire new knowledge in terms of preparing papers for board meeting. So if the boss has to go back 10 o'clock, all right, then I guess you have to be there, right? Sampai you do it together. But unless if your boss, is there and there's nothing urgent, right? For whatever reason, then you can always ask the boss, can I go off, right? Since there's nothing urgent for me to handle, can I excuse myself? I'm sure the management will understand, right? So there's no point for the internship, for example. This is where you learn, right? So for example, the bosses are, having a meeting, for example, and that meeting has got nothing to do with you, all right? So rather than stay in the office and, playing games or something, so it doesn't serve the purpose. So you should be able to speak up, right? Before your boss enter the boardroom, just ask, do you want me to be around? Do you need me to be around, to hang around for you to provide you information? So be able to speak up, right? So this is the culture that we need to instill in our graduates, in our students, be able to speak up. You know that, you are not doing anything wrong, just say, unless, but the way I look at it, the most important thing is punctuality. If the office starts at 9, make sure you punch in before 9. There's no such thing as, I punch in at 9:30, so I extend it, whatever hours required with the company. It doesn't work that way. 9 o'clock means 9 o'clock. They don't care whether you stay up to 10 o'clock or not. Yeah. So that is the mentality, the culture that we need to instill in our students. So that's what we brief them all the time. So if you have got, I'm sure every company has got their own culture, and at the same time their own flexibility. Yeah, the bosses, they've been there for many years. So if you if for example from 9 o'clock, before you punch in 9 o'clock, you start work and you really work, and nobody going to stop you. We want to go back 5 o'clock. You have finished your job, but before you leave, at least knock on the door of your bosses. So I then says, do you want me to be around? Do you have anything else to give me? Because I think there's nothing. Can I go back? I'm sure they are very happy. So it's not that difficult, right? It's just how you carry yourself. I think that's very important. Okay, I think that's what I feel. You don't have to be there, hang around just to please the boss. Please, that doesn't work, right? That doesn't work. Sooner or later, the boss will know. Okay. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Terima kasih Profesor Dr. Zubaida di atas perkongsian. Kita berbalik kepada Puan Wahidatun Najah. Puan Wahidatun Najah dengan saya.
Sorry. Tadi line tak memang
It's okay,
ada.
tak apa, faham.
Okay. So berbalik kepada soalan Elisha tadi, kepada sama ada wajarkah intern akan stay sampai malam. Macam Profesor cakap tadi, dia actually courtesy lah sebenarnya. Sebab bila you bekerja, you kena tahu apa you punya, tak kisahlah you sama ada you intern ataupun you hanya temporary staff ke apa, tapi you tahu you ada tanggungjawab dan seboleh-bolehnya you have to lunaskan you punya tanggungjawab lah, sama ada you nak kena balik lewat ataupun tidak. Itu memang bergantung kepada kerja you waktu tu. Maksudnya kalau you diperlukan untuk stay up lambat, you have to lah, sebab memang kita macam mana sekalipun setahu saya, mana-mana kerja pun kita perlu ada give and take lah sebenarnya. Kalau kita rasa kita tak mampu, let's say lah kalau kita kena stay up, mungkin bos kata kena stay up sampai 12 malam ke apa, dan kita rasa kita tak mampu dan kita rasa kita dah jalankan tanggungjawab kita, dah siap kerja kita, kita boleh bagi tahu dekat bos. Kita cakap kita nak balik ke apa, kita minta izin lah. Tapi for me, dia sebenarnya bukan kita ni macam nak seksa je ke apa, tapi believe me, once you dekat dalam company secretarial punya position, dalam company secretarial punya bidang, you memang dia punya time working normal hours tu memang kira tak akan ada lah in your book sebenarnya. Definitely kalau you macam kerja in-house macam myself pun, you have to deal dengan directors yang luar. For example, you ada directors yang beza 16 jam dengan you. Takkan you nak dapatkan dia punya availability untuk meeting, tapi you tak boleh nak sacrifice your time. So akan ada je meeting yang sampai pukul 10 malam sebab you nak cater for that 16 hours of difference, time difference tu. So memang that is part of your job, that is part of your responsibility. So kalau let's you kata interns you have to stay with me sebab you nak kena tolong I semua ni, you have to lah. Sebab believe me, kalau you buat, definitely you will be recognized lah. You will get something. You takkannya bos you akan macam suruh you stay up lama-lama, lepas tu dia tak bagi you feedback yang bagus lah. So for me, it's not about kita ditindas, tapi it's more on your responsibility lah sebenarnya. You have to lunaskan you punya tanggungjawab. So that is from me lah.
Terima kasih banyak-banyak Puan Wahidatun Najah di atas penjelasan tersebut. Baiklah, maka berakhirlah sudah sesi kita yang pertama, baru yang pertama. Kita akan meneruskan lagi forum ini dengan slot yang seterusnya, iaitu sesi soal jawab daripada penonton. Sekiranya para hadirin ingin mengajukan sebarang pertanyaan, anda boleh mengaktifkan mikrofon atau menulis soalan di ruangan chat box. Sesi soal jawab bersama para panel kehormat akan dibuka selama 30 minit. Silakan. Yang sedang menonton di YouTube boleh bertanyakan soalan di YouTube. Yang sedang menonton siaran langsung di Google Meet boleh tanyakan soalan di Google Meet. Baiklah, kita ada soalan. Soalan yang pertama adalah, soalan ini ditujukan untuk Profesor Doktor. Is corporate compliance different from corporate governance or is it the same thing?
Okay, can I answer? All right, very good question, right? Corporate compliance and corporate governance, okay? The way I look at it, both involve compliance. Okay, corporate governance alone, they are talking, when you talk about corporate governance, if you look at the organization structure, when you talk about organization structure, you got the people, the structure, and the there's one more, the three piece. Okay, the three piece. People, it's not people, structure, and process. Yeah, that's it. That is the in any organization structure. But you can have that, but how you implement it, right? So how you implement it, it involves human beings. Okay, it involves human beings. You need human beings to manage. So when anything to do with human beings, there's always an issue of governance. There's always governance issue. When you talk about governance issue, I think all of us are aware, they talk about how you behave, right? So they're talking about honesty, they're talking about integrity, they're talking about transparency, right? They're talking about judgment, they're talking about what else? Accountability, they're talking about responsibility. These are the main elements of governance. So once you bring in people in managing the structure, managing the resources of the organization, governance issue comes in. So having governance issue, you have got a lot of regulation, laws and regulations surrounding that, right? Surrounding that. So ensuring the compliance of that regulation, ensuring compliance with the Companies Act, ensuring compliance with the MCCG, and ensuring compliance with MACC, AMLA, and so on. So this is where the compliance comes in, right? So governance is one, compliance is one. Right, governance, you're talking about behavior, okay, and compliance is actually in whatever context or governance issue involved, you always have to refer to the regulation. So how do you comply with that? So you need regulators to regulate how you perform in any organization. So basically, if you look at the MCCG, right, in any organization for that matter, it always comes from the top, from the board of directors. So the board of directors set the tone, so it cascades down, right? So that's why nowadays the focus is so much on the board of directors, if you notice around you. So if you talk about corporate governance, so in terms of corporate governance is how the basic definition of corporate governance, okay, is actually how the companies is being managed, how the directors direct the company in the right direction. So there is a very basic term, how the directors direct the company in the right direction. So of course, directors are there, by virtue of their appointment by the shareholders, because the shareholders invest money, right, in the company, and directors are appointed to manage it, right? So as long as board directors are human beings, they're bound to be a governance issue. And of course, further down the line, along the way, even if you're talking about yourself around you, or you also have got your personal governance issue, right? So governance is everywhere. But in terms of corporation, they have got regulators that regulates the operation of the company. So you as company secretary has to ensure the compliance, right? Compliance issue. Now, if you look around you, the non-compliance issue is usually related to governance issue. So this is why they are intertwined. They are interrelated. So you talk about governance, you always have got compliance issue. Right? This is why you have got corporate debacles like Enron, all the big classic corporate failures you see around us, even in Malaysia. If you study the cases, it boils down to governance issue. And it boils down to non-compliance. Am I right? So that's it. Okay. I hope that answered the question.
Terima kasih Profesor Doktor. Mana-mana pelajar yang ingin bertanyakan soalan, anda boleh buka mikrofon anda dan juga tinggalkan soalan di chat box. Silakan, jangan malu rugi.
Can you hear me, Alicia? Okay, my name is
Yeah.
Nurul Ain. I'm from semester 2 student. So I have a question. Apa beza dan juga manfaat jika dibandingkan antara internal dan external company secretary? Mana yang lebih disarankan khususnya para fresh graduate lah untuk apply? That's my question for all the panel. Maybe you guys could answer. Thank you.
Alicia, boleh saya jawab sikit? Sikit je.
Boleh, sepastinya boleh. Silakan Puan Yus.
Okey, terima kasih kepada Nurul Ain, saya rasa yang bertanyakan soalan. Okey, bila you tamat belajar dan you nak, kata okey lah, before I move to my studies, I put aside first, I work. So nak start kat mana? Nak mohon kerja dekat Petronas ke nak mohon kerja dekat Trico? Example. Okay, because Trico is can be considered, I guess Mr. On still can be considered as external. Okay, and then Petronas, of course, they have their corporate legal department, something like that. Okay, so kat mana yang nak mohon, alright, and then bila dah mohon dapat dua-dua, kat mana nak pergi dulu? Right. Well, it's up to you, but okay, pendapat peribadi saya sebenarnya sebagai yang baru nak belajar, okay, selok-belok dalam keseterusan syarikat ini, sebenarnya dua-dua ni akan memberikan ilmu yang agak berbeza, okay. Tapi di external, right, you akan berjumpa dengan berbagai bentuk clients, berbagai background companies, sebab you bukan handle satu je, you bukan jaga satu company tu sahaja. You jaga mungkin you akan ada about 20 companies, okay, under you to take care. Alright, tengok dia punya secretarial works ni macam mana, and then apa clients tu minta, whatsoever. So from there, you learn the basic ideas. Okay, you learn also how to communicate with people. You learn the confidence, okay, to talk with people, to ask the right questions, okay, the communication. You start from there, because you mungkin jumpa orang Korea, kan, you mungkin jumpa orang Malaysia, of course, okay, you mungkin jumpa yang kulitnya putih, mungkin kulitnya tak berapa nak putih, that kind of things. Talking with a Japanese, right, in English is not that easy compared to if you talk with, a Malay ataupun a Malaysians in English. So itu juga build your level of confidence, okay. First steps, baby step yang you ambil dalam bidang ni. Okay. In-house, lain pula cerita dia. In-house normally they also have subsidiaries companies. Okay. Right. Dia orang pun ada banyak juga subsidiary companies dia. Right. And you need to know everything also of all these subsidiary companies. Tiba-tiba you need to know about substantial shareholders. You kena fikir balik substantial shareholders belajar masa part berapa. So it's a different situation. It's just that if in a in-house, you akan more bekerja dengan internal people. Okay, internal punya environment, right? But if you external punya company secretarial firm, you work with all sorts of people, right? And it will build your confidence level, it will build your communication skill, right? And then of course your secretarial practice skill, right? Especially in terms of incorporations, okay? You will have clients yang tak nak guna section 37 straight to go section 40, that kinds of things. You will deal more with regulatory bodies when you are in the external. I mean, I'm talking from experience. Okay, compared to the in-house pun you akan deal juga dengan regulatory bodies, okay? But it will be because of that particular company's punya issues, okay, right? So yang kat sini you akan tengok macam-macam, yang dekat sini you akan tengok macam-macam tapi daripada satu company. Okay, itulah my opinion. Starts with external. That's always my advice to ex-BCA. Starts with the external. Get some inputs, okay, polish the communication skills, the confidence, and all sort of things. And then along the way, you have to move to the in-house also. Okay, you have to deal with Berhad and listed company also. Okay, right, that's it from me.
Boleh saya add sikit?
Terima kasih Puan Yus. Boleh silakan Profesor Doktor.
Okay, saya pun rasa macam Puan Yus pun relate dia punya experience, dia working experience. Saya pun cuba relate saya punya experience juga lah. Tapi sebelum tu, kalau misalnya graduates yang kita ada sekarang ni, dia dah graduate and then apply for job. Suddenly dia dapat dua lah, for example, satu in-house, say for company A, and then satu external with a servicing company lah, selalunya all this company secretary firm, you know, or even the big five. So tapi tengok salary yang dia offer pula. Tiba-tiba external yang in-house ni bayar 3,000 lah misalnya. And then external consultant ni bayar 2,000. So macam mana tu? Okay, so tengok situasi. Kalau you tanya I lah, I will go for yang 3,000 tu. Sebab saya nak tunggu 2,000 ni naik 3,000 lambat. Kurang-kurang 5 tahun. Betul tak? Rational lah. So any student graduate itulah dia go for 3,000. Itu another scenario. Okay. So we never know bila dia masuk in-house Kozak ni dia ada boss dia yang bagus yang akan train dia cepatlah naik kan. So mungkin dia diambil berdasarkan dia punya CV dia bagus kan, dia ni adalah pemimpin pelajar dalam universiti. So dia dah ada dalam leadership quality tu. Ataupun dia buat internship, recommendation, testimony dia daripada majikan dia memang fantastic, awesome. So depends on the situation. Tetapi under normal circumstances, biasa-biasa, selalunya kalau fresh graduates ni selalunya servicing company yang akan ambil. Because that is the stepping stone. Ya, yang you akan belajar bermacam-macam, seperti Puan Yus kata, bermacam-macam kerana. Setahu saya, masa saya bekerja dengan Coopers and Librarian, saya ada 50 syarikat di bawah saya. Each one of us get about 50. Bayangkan nak jaga 50 yang you baru start kerja. Kan memanglah kena marah. Kena marah dengan klien banyak kali lah kan. Tapi we learn, but we really learn a lot. So give yourself 3 tahun cukup. 3 years is for you to learn everything. You learn all types of companies, family owned lah, a group of companies lah, holding company. You belajar semua tu. And you learn how to interact, how to call people, you know, how to really work. You really learn a lot lah. But believe you, dalam 50 syarikat tu, ada satu yang akan terpikat dengan you. Believe me, one of them will like the way you work, like the way you handle, walaupun dia orang kasar dengan you, but you able to keep up, they will offer you straight away. That's what happened to me lah. This one happened to me. One of them, you know, after they give you a lot of work, memang like irritating gila-gila, but you survive. So at the end of the day, they says, why can't you join our company? We have got many subsidiaries. I need you to set up our own company secretarial department. See? You never know your luck, right? So this is where it starts. So you become a full-fledged, working for a group of company secretary. Group of companies as the head of the secretary department. That's what it starts off. You need to, I don't know, different people have got different ways of going up the ladder. But, this is why I say it depends on the situation, depends on how you perform. It very much depends on you. Sometimes you can see a bit of luck, but very much depends on your own effort to prove to them that you are good. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you.
Terima kasih Profesor Doktor dan sekali lagi terima kasih Puan Yusri atas penjelasan. Seterusnya ada lagi soalan daripada pelajar. Anda boleh buka mikrofon dan juga tanya di chat box. Silakan. Ada satu soalan daripada saudari Nur Syaza Farhana Yusrin. Soalannya adalah, hello, I got a question. Any panel can answer it. If any student is having internship that is outside company secretary field, how much of a possibility that we can get company secretary as a job? Since I assume company would want employee that has at least some experience on the field. Anyone? Mana-mana panel, silakan.
Okay.
Mr. Ong pula.
Yeah, probably I can take up the question first. If anything, then either the Puan Yus or Professor Zubaida, they can add on. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I would say it doesn't matter if you are not, when you are doing the intern outside of corporate secretary field, because when you are going to the real corporate world, you will have exposure to communicate with other people and then work with the other people. As long as you have the right attitude to learn from them, and then you get the correct way or learn the way to do the job or get the thing run. Then after you graduate, then when you go to look for the corporate job and then you have the right attitude and you are willing to learn, then I would say all the concept of management, they are willing to take up you. I think that's all for me.
Terima kasih Encik Ong. Seterusnya ada penambahan ke?
Apa soalannya tadi ya, Alicia?
Ada di chat box, saya ulang. Soalannya adalah, if any student is having internship that is outside company secretary field, how much of a possibility that we can get company secretary as a job? Since I assume company would want employee that has at least some experience on the field.
Okay, boleh saya add sikit to Mr. Ong. Okay, what you call students, okay, graduates, okay. Now they have to understand company secretary is a very unique position. It is the only profession, I should say, which is provided in the Act. It is provided in the Companies Act. Every company must have at least one secretary. And do you know how many companies registered with SSM now? I think it touches 1 million. Am I right, Mr. Ong? It touches 1 million. So bayangkan 1 million companies registered with SSM, and it is required by the Companies Act. They must have a secretary. So you bayangkan the opportunity out there. But there's nothing in the Companies Act that says company must have an accountant. There's nothing in the Act that says companies must have a lawyer, right? A legal person. No. But company secretary very specific. So this is what yang I selalu tekankan kepada student I. You all should be very, in a way, it's a very unique profession. It is covered by the Companies Act. You tell me, you quote me any other profession yang mentioned in the Companies Act that they need to have one. Company must need one. Company registered with SSM must have at least one company secretary. So the opportunity is there, right? You know that you can secure, but it's just a matter of time for you to get there. And each one of us have got their own pathway, right? And again, very much depends on individual, how you carry yourself, how you proactive you are. So that nobody can help you. You have to help yourself, right? I think that's the direction that should have you need to instill that, and you get all this from session like this, like forum, and also what you learn in class, right? When you do a lot of presentation, it builds up your skill, it builds up your confidence. So you need to build that. Yeah. All right. I think that's much I can share.
Okay, Alicia, saya nak tambah sikit je. You don't have to worry if you go for internship. Your internship, I mean AM 225 internship is what? 8 weeks, something like that, and you go to Lembaga Tabung Haji, for example, right? Okay, because at the end of the day, once you finish your so-called degree, in your so-called transcript, it mentions what have you taken, and believe me, okay, your future employer, right, when you show the transcript, dia tengok, dia baca, oh you ada ni, soalan dia masa interview dia akan tanya you kenapa nak kena ada audited financial statement, example lah, that's my questions, Prof. Okay, so you going, you will have no problem. It's just that, of course, okay, who starts as a fresh graduates lah, and of course, a fresh graduates, some companies nowadays, okay, acknowledged, right, and they, if it's in I will say segitiga, segitiga emas in Klang Valley, maybe you can get like about starting about 2000, 2003, okay, 2005, that kind of thing, okay. But as a fresh graduate, if you are doing it in Kedah, it might be a different level lah dia punya income, starting salary dia, but you also have learned in the practical way during your learning process in classes. So it will not be a problem if, let's say, your internship, okay, is not, however lah, orang kata rezeki tak dapat dekat secretarial firm whatsoever. But I'm sure nowadays, most of you nak atau tak nak saja, suka atau tak suka saja, okay? Because outside there, the employers, right, they definitely will love to have you all, okay? Sama ada dari UPM ke, USIM ke, UiTM ke, for intern, definitely, right? Because as Mr. Ong said before, the works never stop. Okay, so no worries about that. Okay, thank you for me. Thanks, Alicia.
Terima kasih di atas penjelasan yang diberikan. Dan kita berganjak kepada soalan seterusnya. Soalan ini merupakan soalan terakhir kita pada hari ini. Soalan ini ditanya oleh saudari Nur Syahira Muhammad Nizal. Soalannya berbunyi, what are the risks of employee compliance violations? What are the risks of employee compliance violation? Siapa-siapa?
What are the risks
of employee compliance violation?
What are the risks of employee? Employee compliance?
Violations.
Employee violations towards what?
I think the question is supposed to be on corporate compliance violations to the officer lah ko. I mean to the officer, company secretary lah ko. I guess Prof, maybe Prof, you want to answer it?
Because soalan tu quite vague, so dia nak tahu berkenai dengan employee corporate compliance. Atau macam mana? Employee compliance. Maybe you can
corporate compliance by the company secretary, the officer of the company.
Oh, okay.
That's to do.
More of the role of the company secretary lah.
Yes.
In terms of compliance.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Because you talk about employee compliance, so employee ni can be anybody, alright. So if you are more specific towards company secretary compliance, role of the company secretary, basically I dah I did mention earlier, company secretary is more of compliance. Dia punya role is more of compliance role. Right, not? Of course, over and above the others, but basically compliance. And the next, what do you call it? Compliance towards what? The first thing is the Companies Act 2016. That is the nearest to you. So because it involves, as you know, the Companies Act actually regulates once the company is registered, so of course automatically from A to Z, right, daripada incorporation, formation sampai lah the winding up, is all being regulated. So to me is being a company secretary, you are guided. You're not left alone, not to worry. Anything yang you tak sure, you tengok Companies Act. You never go wrong. You never go wrong. So that is the beauty of being a company secretary. You are guided all along. Cuma you faham ke tidak bila baca Companies Act tu lah. Bukan nak Companies Act being a legal document, dibaca sekali memang tak faham. Baca 2 kali tak faham. 3 kali baru faham. Okay? And you have to read and really understand before you can advise the board. So talking about non-compliance, it can be from the first day, from the inception of the company right to the end. It's all along, all talking about compliance. Whatever you do you comply with the provisions of whatever sections in the Companies Act? Then if you feel that there's non-compliance, the tendency for non-compliance, we advise the board. Anything to do with companies, right? Because remember, everything, the board do not read the Companies Act for that matter. So they will just look at you as a company secretary. What does the Companies Act says about this? Okay, then you have to be very conversant, right? You have to know offhand. So you need to master the Companies Act. So compliance here just, okay, as all of us know, regulators are becoming more and more rigorous. They come, then you have got the MCCG. But mind you, MCCG, they are not act. They are just code. So when it comes to code, they are soft law. So non-compliance of soft law, there's no penalties. Right, they always based on recommended best practice. So the way I look at it, to be on the safe side, you hang on to your Companies Act, right? Because you know that non-compliance, if you do not advise the board accordingly, and if, for example, the board being fined for millions, they will look at you. Silap hari bulan, you kena buang kerja. But you tak advise. You fail to provide that advice to the board. So I did quote earlier about conflict of interest. So that is a very common issue, non-compliance for conflict of interest. Because the board doesn't know or overlook. So you have to be aware and caution them, look, you do not comply with this section 221 on conflict of interest, right, in the Companies Act, the penalty is 3 million. Ask the directors, are you willing to pay 3 million? That's it. Then they will all like open up their eyes. Okay, so that is company secretary compliance with the Companies Act. I think that is the best example that I can quote. Of course, others you are the AMLA, you have got Anti-Money Laundering Act, you have got Capital Securities Act, you got all the act. You don't depend. The Companies Act is the core, right? But others you have to know. MACC, because this involves directors as well. Anything to do with directors, you have to be an expert because they are all involved with compliance. MACC, Anti-Money Laundering Act. What else have we got? All the Securities Act, I think that's it lah, yeah. Thank you.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Profesor Doktor di atas penjelasan. Dengan itu berakhirlah kedua-dua sesi kita pada pagi ini. Saya dengan ini mengucapkan jutaan terima kasih sekali lagi yang tidak terhingganya kepada para penceramah serta hadirin hadirat kita pada pagi ini di atas kesudian meluangkan masa bagi menjayakan forum ini. Tuailah padi antara masak, esok jangan layu-layuan. Intailah kami antara nampak, esok jangan rindu-rinduan. Sekian sahaja daripada saya untuk hari ini. Andai terkasar bahasa, tersilap bicara, mohon dimaafkan. Dengan sukacitanya, saya serahkan semula majlis ini kepada pengacara majlis. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Alisha.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada saudari Alisha Dayana selaku moderator kita pada hari ini. Sidang hadirin sekalian, sebelum majlis melaburkan tirai, ayuh kita ke agenda terakhir iaitu sesi bergambar. Dijemput pihak atasan, para panel serta hadirin dan hadirat sekalian untuk bersama-sama saya dalam menjayakan sesi bergambar kita pada hari ini. Diminta pihak teknikal untuk bersedia. Dijemput juga untuk para hadirin sekalian untuk membuka kamera di hadapan anda. Baiklah. Dalam kiraan 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi. 1, 2, 3. Okey, gaya bebas. Dalam kiraan 1, 2, 3. Baiklah, terima kasih di atas sesi bergambar itu tadi. Sebelum bersurai, pelajar juga diingatkan untuk mengisi borang kehadiran dan maklum balas yang telah disediakan di ruang chat box. Dengan itu, maka berakhirlah program kita pada hari ini. Majlis mengucapkan jutaan terima kasih kepada semua pihak yang terlibat dalam menjayakan majlis ini sama ada secara langsung ataupun tidak langsung. Majlis juga mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih atas kesudian para hadirin bagi menghadiri program pada pagi ini. Saya bagi pihak jawatan kuasa majlis memohon maaf sekiranya terdapat sebarang kekurangan sepanjang mengendalikan majlis ini. Saya akhiri majlis kita dengan wabillahi taufik wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Terima kasih semua.
Terima kasih semua. Assalamualaikum. Selamat Raya.
Selamat Raya.
Terima kasih. Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih kepada semua.
Terima kasih. Take care. Stay safe. Selamat Hari Raya.
Semua pelajar yang dah masuk boleh left dah. And semua AJK minta masuk post-mortem. Thank you.